comes from a very authentic place.
And all the different projects he works on under the Clutch umbrella connect back to one of his biggest passions.
They're all intertwined. They're all connected in a lot of ways. It all leads back to sport.
I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
With Fidelity Wealth Management, a dedicated advisor gets to know you and your goals to build a comprehensive plan to help grow and protect your wealth. Backed by a team of specialists, they'll analyze all your accounts, even the ones they don't manage, to keep an eye on taxes and provide proactive portfolio insights that can help you unlock your wealth's full potential. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Doug.
Limu and I created a trick to help you remember that you can customize your car insurance and save with Liberty Mutual. You see, the shirts Limu and I wear are yellow, and yellow is the color of lemons. And lemons grow on trees, and trees provide oxygen, and oxygen helps us breathe, and breathing is how you live, and you can live more life when you save money by customizing your car insurance. I agree, Limu. It's really quite simple. Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Milwaukee Black Talk lives here on 101.7 FM and 1510 AM, W269DL Milwaukee, and WGKB Waukesha.
He steps to the mic with a boom, ping, ping. Wisdom sharper than a beast's fierce sting. Words like fireflies that light the night. He turns the dark into blazing bright. Boom, ping, ping, the truth takes wing. Milwaukee's voice, let the city sing. Boom, ping, ping, hear the freedom ring. Sherwin's the king, oh, the airwaves king. Shake the ground, unveils the truth where lies abound. Politics, justice, social streams. He molds the chaos into dreams. No silence here, just the sound of change. Boom, ping, ping, rearrange. Boom, ping, ping, the truth takes wing. Milwaukee's voice, let the city sing. Boom, ping, ping, hear the freedom ring. Sherwin's the king, or the airwaves king. Through the static, through the noise, he amplifies the people's voice. Boom, ping, ping, like a heartbeat's call. He's got the wisdom to break down walls. Yeah.
Good morning. Welcome to the program. Today is Friday. You made it to August 7th, 2026. Couple of things. Today is the last day to register to vote if you are going to cast an early voting ballot at one of the different sites we have throughout the city of Milwaukee. You still can register to vote on Election Day, which is Tuesday, August 11th. If you plan on voting early, though, today is the last day in which you can register. And if I'm not mistaken, today must be the last day of early in-person voting at the sites that we have in the city of Milwaukee. I'm going to go through a listing of the sites just so you have it top of mind. The Good Hope Library, the hours are from 12:30 until 7:30. The Midtown Voting Center at 4170 North 56th Street from 8:30 until 5:30 are their hours of operation. The Tippecanoe Library, 3912 South Howell Avenue, their hours are 12:30 until 7:30. Of course, the good old Washington Park Senior Center, 4420 West Vliet, 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. The Zablocki Library, 35th in Oklahoma, from 12:30 until 7:30, and the Zeidler Municipal Building from 9 a.m. until 6 p.m. So today is the last day in which you will be able to register. Also at 11 a.m., I will be joined by the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus and the senator representing the good people of the 4th Senate District, Dora Drake, is going to be in studio with us, and she is going to share her thoughts on why she is endorsing David Crowley to be the next governor of the state of Wisconsin. And I find it a little unusual, and the timing is odd, but the timing of this entire election cycle has been odd. Everything has just been late or misaligned, and some things just didn't really make any sense, like the timeline of some of the candidates, when they decided to get in the race, when they decided to get out of the race. But the most perplexing thing is the number of people that are still in the race. But it also is not customary for an incumbent Democrat. That's why the Tony Evers endorsement of David Crowley is so unique. It isn't often that an incumbent Democrat endorses one Democrat over another in a primary. Primaries are for primary voters to decide based upon whatever the issues are, whatever the sentiment is about politics at the time, but also, most importantly, the strength of the campaign to gain momentum. Primary voters make that decision. They narrow down very crowded fields. And if you can recall any other election, especially when there are much discussed primary elections, look at presidential primaries. They're insane. They're very crowded. You have a bunch of different ideas that are represented. Some are mainstream, some are middle of the road and moderate. Some are absolutely insane, completely and totally off the wall. And I can remind you of the year 2016. I brought up the year 2016 a lot because so many things happened then, a decade ago, that are very relatable to what is happening right now. I think most folks, if you're just getting involved in politics or you recently started following it, it doesn't make any sense. And if you feel that way, I completely and totally understand why this makes zero sense to you. It oftentimes defies logic. So that is why looking backwards and seeing, okay, where have we been in a similar situation before, and then using that retrospective to apply some logic to today. It's not always 100%, but it gives a pretty decent indication because for the most part, Americans, and dare I say even Wisconsinites, are relatively predictable when the climates exist in a particular way. If I go to the presidential contest in 2016 where the Republicans were completely discombobulated, you got to keep in mind they had not won a national election in 2 presidential cycles. That means that your party, at least at the national level, is ineffective. And so they had to go back to the drawing board. The Republican Party did. They didn't know what Republican voters wanted. Republican voters were either staying home or they were switching party. Something unusual was going on that allowed for Barack Obama to get elected not once, but twice. There are also some cultural elements as well. If you are even the slightest bit familiar with the United States of America, race does play a role in a lot of stuff, dare I say almost everything. So not only can the Republicans, this is back then, not only could they not win in national contests 2 presidential elections in a row, a very unlikely person based on America's history got elected and got reelected. That told the Republican Party that they had to go completely back to the drawing board and start from scratch. And that's why you had a Republican presidential primary that was really, really crowded. I think there may have been 15, 16, even 17 people. That primary was so crowded that when they had debates, they had to schedule them on 2 consecutive nights. You can't fit everybody on the stage. Some of them are fat and took up a lot of stage. Chris Christie took up Trump's fat too. Now, he's a fat boy. He loves eating McDonald's, but he balances it out with Diet Cokes. So there were so many Republicans running that they had to have their debates on 2 separate nights because there was too many fat people and just too many people in general. Because it showed that their party was discombobulated and they didn't know which direction they were going to go, and they had to try something. So you have a crowded primary. In Wisconsin, we have a crowded primary too. Because the Democratic Party does not know, as a response to Trump nationally, the Democratic Party does not know what it needs to do. Kamala Harris lost in 2024, so that means whatever Democratic politics was, whatever Democratic campaigns were, at least in the state of Wisconsin, we don't know what sticks to the wall. And that's why you had a whole bunch of people throwing their hat in the ring to run for governor, just like you had a whole bunch of people who threw their hat in the ring to run for president in 2016. Here is where you need to be particularly cautious, and this is where 2016 and 2026 will diverge quickly. When you have a large group of people running for office in a primary, in a very well-studied and watched election cycle like 2016 was and like 2026 is, because this is the first midterm election since Donald Trump won the presidency in 2024. In 2016, you had 2 terms of Democrat Barack Obama. The Republicans had to go back to the drawing board, and they had everybody and their mother that was running for the presidency, or at least vying for the Republican nomination, you see. When you have a crowded field, and this part is true, the craziest ideas win. Far too many Republicans in 2016 were splitting the common sense vote. They were splitting the traditional Republican family values vote. They were splitting what people thought Republican candidates for president should be. Donald Trump came in and he was insane. Here's the thing about people that are insane that are also registered to vote. And I don't necessarily like that ratio of sanity to voting participation, because it'll screw everything up. It'll gum up the works. The people that were supporting Donald Trump, knowing who he was, now we got to know him better, they were not going to be moved by any of those other status quo, regular, boring, run-of-the-mill Republicans, even if they were very conservative, even if they were much more moderate. They wanted something that was new and revolutionary and evolutionary, and Donald Trump was a outsider, and he was going to drain the swamp. And he was going to deport all of the illegals, and he was going to stop the foreign wars. He's a businessman, and we were going to get the economy going again. First lie he told. Second, actually. First one was Barack Obama wasn't a citizen. The next one was the economy was not working well. We went from a bankrupt nation in a recession, housing foreclosure crisis, 2 wars, banks weren't lending, our automakers were going belly up. We went from that to breaking records on the stock market, and everybody had health insurance. Donald Trump lied and convinced his crazy followers that the economy was bad because it was bad for them. Poor, sad white folks that couldn't find a footing even in a good economy. They were desperate, and Donald Trump was promising them something. These people were insane, and yes, I will call people in this country insane because some of you are. I can tell by the output of your decisions. I can even tell by how some of y'all dress that you're crazy. You ever see somebody that wears stripes and polka dots and then a hat and then earrings that don't match? And there's this thing that the kids do. The kids do a thing. I don't know if they still do the thing. Maybe they still do the thing. Actually, I don't even really care, but I notice the thing that the kids do. They'll wear two shoes that don't even match. Why would you? What's wrong with you? Were you not loved? And here's something else that they do. We starting hot today. They wear socks that don't match. I can't do that. I can't put on 2 socks that don't match. You know what it feels like when I'm wearing 2 socks that don't match? Maybe was I traumatized as a child, but my socks have to match. The kids nowadays, they don't even care if their socks match. You know when you tie a shoe, let's say you're walking. You're minding your own business. You're doing what you do. I don't know, maybe you're looking for drugs. I don't know what you're doing. I'm not asking you what you're doing. You're just walking. And then you notice, one of your shoes is untied. And you say, I don't want to trip. I don't want to fall. I'm going to stop and I'm going to tie my shoe, okay? And you tie it, and it's freshly tied and it's tight. It's a tight fit. It's a tight, nice little bow. But your other shoe that wasn't untied, it's a little bit looser. Because remember, you just tied your left shoe because that shoelace came untied. But you didn't tie the right shoe because why would you? Because it was already tied. When I wear socks that don't match, it feels like one shoelace is tighter than the other. Is this just me? Maybe it is. Thank you for saying it's just me, Xavier. A lot of what I'm going to say today is just me stuff.
No, I was confirming that it's insane.
Oh, thank you. A confirmation of something I said. When you have a very crowded field and you have a political party that does not know which direction it's going to go in, the Democrats right now in the state of Wisconsin do not know what direction they're going to go in because it seems to us, at least in the state of Wisconsin, I can't speak for other states, battleground states, and the rest of the nation, but we thought that the Kamala Harris campaign in the state of Wisconsin was one that was going to work. We maybe discounted or over-indexed for her gender and her race. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Maybe we under-indexed the impact of the transgender issue and girls and boys' bathrooms and boys playing on girls' sports teams. Maybe we overlooked some of that stuff, but what it told the Democrats is that a very well-funded campaign with a charismatic candidate. Now, there was some back and forth in the 2024 presidential race, just like we had some back and forth here in Wisconsin's governor's race, right? Was Joe Biden going to stay in the race? Was he going to get out? Was Joe Biden going to run for a second term? Do you remember that back and forth? Also very similar to the back and forth that we've seen here in Wisconsin. It is also reflective of a party that does not know what direction to go in. Joe Biden was a stopgap to prevent Donald Trump from getting reelected in 2020 because you had everything coming to a head. We had an economy that was messed up by COVID. You had COVID itself. You had the argument over vaccines and the anti-vaxxer movement and the suburbs that are more conservative wanting to open and the cities that kept everything closed. The kids weren't in school anymore. You had the whole impact of George Floyd. There was literal social and health and medical turmoil going on in the country. Joe Biden was seen as a safe, reliable stopgap. Nobody really loved him. Nobody got excited about him, but it was a way in which we could get the country back on some kind of sane footing, and then we would move forward. But Joe Biden was not the answer because he could not be the future of the Democratic Party because Joe Biden is 497 years old. Joe Biden's slaves probably don't even know that they're free yet. That's how old he is, okay? And then you had all of the back and forth. Was he going to run again? And then he had the debate. Remember the debate where he lost his mind? The Medicare, and then everybody thought that he had a stroke, thought that he was just too old. They thought he had dementia. Do you know what that actually was? And I feel bad because I participated in the chorus of saying very unflattering things about Joe Biden, and because I knew what was at stake. It was so bad. You remember how bad he gaffed during that debate?
That was crazy. I was literally cringing the whole time.
Oh, it was so bad. I was like, oh, it's over now. It was so bad that Donald Trump was like, oh, I'm not even going to touch that.
Yeah.
He mentioned Trump was just like, yeah, I'm not really sure what he said. And then Trump, because you know Trump is going to take a jab at you, but Trump was like, oh my God, what did I just witness? And Trump just went on. He eventually, but here's the thing, a month later, he dropped out. And then, of course, we're quote unquote stuck with Kamala in the Wisconsin race for governor. Sarah Rodriguez was in. She dropped out. David Crowley was in. He dropped out. He got back in the race. Mandela got in the race in the first place. He stayed in too long. Then Mandela gets out, I don't know, a week ago because there was scandal broiling. And then you have Francesca Hong. Similar to Donald Trump, her path has always been clear because her voters don't fit into the categories that are offered by the other candidates. So 2016 offers a pathway for the least likely candidate because oftentimes their pathway and the voters that they can entice will not vote in support for anybody else because they are just as insane as the candidate themselves. And here we are. I'm going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to ask you guys a fundamental question. Who do you trust? Marquette University conducted a poll and asked people that exact question. Who do you trust? And we found out that, believe it or not, the older you are, the more trusting you are of people. So, the old folks, the baby boomers and whatnot, have the most trust. They also have the motto that I think is kind of faded for modern times. Trust everybody until they give you a reason not to. That's the dumbest advice. As birth cohorts get younger, the trust erodes very, very quickly. And it also may explain why younger voters, they don't trust this system. They don't trust capitalism. They don't trust older people. They don't trust politics. And when there is someone of their age cohort that is also mistrustful of the system, you can galvanize. It's weird because you can galvanize a group of people that nobody trusts, and you can engender their trust by also telling them you don't trust anybody yourself. So I'm going to try and demystify and provide some clarity today with hopefully worthwhile results. You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. I'll be right back.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 101.7 The Truth, The Truth app, and 101.7thetruth.com.
Educators Credit Union is more than a place to manage your money. They're where your financial possibilities take shape. They're more than transactions. They're conversations about your financial goals. More than numbers, they're community advocates who support free, local events that are accessible to all. They foster community because we are stronger together. Educators Credit Union is people helping people. Become a member at ECU.com. Insured by NCUA. Membership eligibility required.
Reading aloud to children sharpens their listening skills, expands their vocabularies, and nurtures a lifelong love of reading. That's why Reading is Fundamental, the nation's leading children's literacy nonprofit, offers free monthly read-alouds by popular authors through its Rally to Read program. Visit rallytoread.org to watch the read-alouds and discover exciting reading activities for school and home. Visit rallytoread.org today.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 The Truth, The Truth app, and 101.7thetruth.com.
The Marquette Law School poll, national survey, has dived into the question of trust in the age of cell phones, the internet, social media, and dating apps, long past the age of black and white television. In 4 polls conducted with 4,500 respondents in 2026, 77% of those born before 1960. So let's see here. If you were born in 1960, you're 66 years old. Okay. In 4 polls conducted with 4,500 respondents in 2026, 77% of those born before 1960 say most people can be trusted. A markedly high level of interpersonal trust. That also explains why every so often on local news, why there's a scam, everyone, going on. There's a Medicare, Medicaid fraud scam. People are calling your house and asking you a bunch of questions and asking for your social security number. It's always an old lady. I feel so bad for those people. But also, some of the worst human beings that we share this earth with are people that take advantage of other people's vulnerabilities and you steal from them. That's awful. I like money a lot, but it ain't the same if you I almost said a bad word. If you have to screw somebody out of their money, that money is yucky money. That's dirty money. You got to lie to somebody. You got to trick somebody. You got to take advantage of somebody. And sometimes these people, they don't have anybody to tell them any different. All their friends are dead. Because when you're old, it's lonely, I come to find out. If you don't have a big family or like a church community or something, or you're not a part of a retirement community, I have to think about this. Well, maybe I won't have to think about it. I don't know. There might be a time. What if I live a long time? As of right now, I don't know if the odds are in my favor, but what if I get lucky? And then, like, the people that I call now, that I text now, that I hang out with socially now, there might be a time where all of them are dead. They're all, and it's just me going bowling by myself, wearing 2 bowling shoes that don't match. I'm old. My socks probably don't match either. I don't know what's going on. I'm at the bowling alley wearing some overalls. Over here like Joe Biden. Oh, back, because I was going to tell you guys what that was when Joe Biden had that gaffe. It was proof that it was like confirmation bias. Everybody thought, oh, Joe Biden is too old. The Democratic Party is too old. Joe Biden was elected because he was old and he had been around for a very long time, and we were very familiar with his policies. Even if we didn't like his policies, we knew what the hell they were. Joe Biden didn't shock anybody with anything he did. Joe Biden wouldn't just have a press conference and say, I'm going to deport a whole bunch of people and I'm going to put ICE in every single city and detain people. He was just steady. And that's what we needed at that time, because the world, if you remember, was in complete chaos. There was an American Revolution going on in the city streets of probably 100 different cities. There were protests. Some were peaceful. Some were not. A lot of cop cars got burned. There was this one scene that I'll never forget because I was riveted to, because most of us were at home during the COVID and then during the worst part of the George Floyd protests. Milwaukee got ransacked. But there was a protest in Los Angeles. And the police officers, because there was a large march, and the march was heading toward maybe downtown L.A. or it might have been like Rodeo Drive. It was some place where the protesters shouldn't have been going, and people were nervous. Business owners were nervous because, a lot of businesses got their windows broken, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of businesses were nervous. So the police showed up, full riot gear, and they used their police vehicles, their cruisers, and they parked them bumper to bumper to block the street left to right, right? Can you imagine that? So the street is blocked. The police cruisers are parked bumper to bumper from left to right. So when the protesters arrived at this particular area of downtown, they were blocked by the squad cars. Really bad planning on the police officers' part. So you have this barricade or barrier of police cars, and then behind those police cars on one side are the cops, full riot gear. They got their helmets on and their masks and their shields. They have it all. And then you have this growing group of protesters. It was so many of them. I watched this thing in real time because there was cameras everywhere. And the number of people was larger than even the width of the street. And the protesters approached this barricade of police cars, and for a moment, they stopped. Cops are on the other side of the police cars, right? So they have the protection of those squad cars. Do you know what the protesters did? They flipped all of the squad cars over, and then guess what the cops did? Remember, the cops are in full riot gear, but here's the thing. They were probably outnumbered 10, 15, 20 to 1. And the cops turned around and they ran. I had never in my life seen anything like that. But then the police also realized that the squad cars that they arrived in, they couldn't leave in those squad cars because they were upside down. And, of course, the protesters and the rioters overtook whatever part of downtown that was. That was just one of the many fascinating things about the American Revolution that was taking place right in front of our faces. Not to be confused with what they tried to do with the Corey Ruiz protest. Yeah, not quite the same thing. I said all that to say this. Joe Biden stuttered on that stage because he was going through cancer treatment. That's what he was messed up. Now, he also was old as hell, too. And that probably should be reason enough to step down. But he knew that he was a steady hand. But that debate really accelerated the conversation for Joe Biden to withdraw from the race. But because he held on for so long, he should have dropped out that night. And it was very tough. And Jill wanted him to stay in the race because there was not a whole lot of trust between the Biden administration and Kamala Harris. They didn't get along. That's not uncommon for presidents and vice presidents to not get along. Oh, newsflash, Tony Evers didn't get along with Mandela Barnes at all. Their staffs didn't talk. Oh, y'all didn't know that? Mandela Barnes, as lieutenant governor, was an albatross around Tony Evers' neck. And when Mandela decides to quit his position as lieutenant governor to run for the U.S. Senate, while it did gum up the works a little bit, because that's a very unorthodox thing to do, I think some part of Governor Evers was actually relieved because Mandela was making a wonderful mess of things, not to mention the reason why he most recently dropped out and suspended his campaign for governor, the allegations that he was using his position as lieutenant governor to bed many young and impressionable women that wanted to get involved in Democratic Party politics. While he was lieutenant governor, he was doing all of that stuff. And here's the thing. Everybody knew he was doing it, including Governor Evers. And it was just ugly. And then Mandela decides to run for the U.S. Senate. Now, he dodged a bullet, and I think that at the time in 2022, they didn't bring up the accusations and allegations against Mandela because at the time, Donald Trump, I don't know what scandal Donald Trump was embroiled in, but they thought that if they brought up Mandela's background in that race against Ron Johnson, that it may have backfired on Ron Johnson, but it didn't matter because Ron Johnson won anyway. But Joe Biden was going through cancer treatment, and I messed his head up a little bit, messed his brains up. Now, we, of course, attributed to him being senile and having dementia, but the fact that he stayed in the race for so long did not sow more trust in Kamala Harris, because you would think Joe Biden would say, hey, I'm going to willingly step down and I'm going to now endorse my number 2, the vice president, because I selected her to be on this ticket. He didn't do that. He held out, and he held out a little bit too long. The Marquette Law School poll national survey dived into the question of trust in the age of cell phones, the internet, social media, and dating apps, long past the age of black and white television. In 4 polls conducted with 4,500 residents in 2026, 77% of those born before 1960 say most people can, in fact, be trusted. So we want to ask you a real simple question on YouTube. Real simple, yes or no. Can most people be trusted? Oh, my God. Now, the poll is early. We just put it up 30 minutes ago. 80% of you say no. So I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to come back, and we're going to dive into this. It's an exquisite poll, actually, because it asks a very fundamental question that helps us better understand how fragmented our politics are. Because if you are younger, and we want young people to be engaged in politics because it is literally their future. If you're a young person right now, you are voting on what kind of old age you want to have, because policy that is made right now can have a dramatic impact on your 40s or 50s or 60s, the tax structure, what the economy is, you see. But if you don't trust anybody, right, that also might guide your political decisions and who you vote for, including which party you vote for. Because if you don't trust these damn Democrats, and you sure enough don't trust the Republicans, well, then maybe, just maybe, a hybrid, a democratic socialist or a progressive or a super liberal might be the way to go, only because they haven't made enough policy to sow your distrust yet. So they're the least damaged, they're the least dirtied up segment of American politics just because they don't get elected very often. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. We'll be right back.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 101.7 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
At Versity on King, we believe taking care of our community starts right here, together. Every day, neighbors step up to donate blood, helping save lives in Milwaukee and beyond. But Versity on King is more than a donor center. It's a place for health education, community connection, and support, especially for families facing conditions like sickle cell disease. When you donate blood, you're not just giving, you're showing up for your community. Visit versity.org/VersityOnKing to learn more or schedule your donation today. Versity on King, rooted in community, powered by hope.
I'm Sherwin Hughes, and I know the power of Stars and Stripes Honor Flight firsthand. As someone who's been on an honor flight, I can tell you it's a day you'll never forget. Stars and Stripes Honor Flight gives our oldest veterans who served in any location in June of 1975 or earlier a free one-day trip to Washington, D.C. for veterans. Airfare, meals, a coach bus tour, and special flight apparel are all included. It's a day of honor, gratitude, and camaraderie. Veterans who served in the Vietnam or Korean War go to flySSHF.org and ask for an application.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
When I met both of them, it was like my missing pieces were found. Like it was just like an instant, these are my kids. If you're considering adopting a teen, just do it. Kids need families. I don't care the age, everybody deserves a family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
It makes sense to me, even before I delve into the details of this poll. It's really fascinating, though. The older you are, the more you trust people. There's a sweetness to that. There's an innocence to that. And it reminds me of a time when people were fundamentally more decent. And sometimes, even on this program, we'll wax nostalgic about an African-American community from some time ago that was way more tight-knit. It just seemed like everything was better. People were more pleasant. You knew your neighbors. There was a profound understanding that you were there to take care of one another. The young people were much more well-behaved. Like there was like a culture that was based on positivity and shared values. We had what is called a monoculture. We just all believed the same things. You work hard, you take care of your responsibilities, and then good things will come. It seems like as time has gone on, all of that has eroded. But you have to also look at, because this is America, you got to look at the economic times. When black people enjoy full employment, and 1970 is a very important year in the history of the city of Milwaukee. I know it seems like a million years ago, but we have not returned to what we had then. So 1970, my parents had just arrived in Milwaukee within the last 2 years. They both were starting their careers at the United States Post Office. They were dating other people. They hadn't met yet. Sherwin was still a long way off. I was still swimming around in Eugene. I was like, one day, I'm going to be on the radio. The year 1970, black male and white male unemployment in the city of Milwaukee was parity. It's 1%. 99% of both black men and white men were employed, and dare I say, gainfully. Now, there was a handful of low-wage, minimum wage jobs back then, but those jobs were reserved for kids and like summer jobs. Most adults were making really, really good wages. And then you had a community that could rely on the low level of unemployment, full black employment in the city of Milwaukee. And then you can have shops, stores, restaurants, other services, dry cleaners that were all black owned because the income in the black community was so consistent that you could, in fact, take a risk, buy a building, start an operation, start a store, because as long as your community enjoyed full employment, you were going to make money. And also keep in mind, segregation was a factor as well, because if you were black in the black community was everything that you needed, because you didn't know if you went out to the suburbs what was even going to happen to you. You didn't know if you were going to make it back. There's a period of time where like 60th and Capitol Drive was the suburbs. Capitol Court was the suburbs. You wouldn't dare go out to Mayfair. If I'm not mistaken, I think Mayfair is the oldest standing shopping mall still in operation. It opened in like 1952. So we had full employment. We had a tight-knit community, mostly tight-knit because of housing covenants. You couldn't move out if you wanted to. But everything that we needed was right there. And because it was a tight-knit community and everybody knew everybody, people would also take liberty to make sure that children were being well-behaved and that they were being disciplined. But as that employment number crept down over the years and when deindustrialization hit, you can almost put your finger on the exact moment when things started to unravel. But if you're from that era, those are your formative years. Imagine growing up in a black community where there was hardly any crime. You could play outside. You knew your neighbors. You knew your friends. Everybody. You all went to school together. You all went to church together. You all went to the restaurant together. And you grew up in a loving environment. And damn it, you might have even had two parents. If those are your formative years, that sticks with you. And as you get older, that doesn't leave you. You still have trust for people, especially black people, people that look like us. Let's talk to someone who looks like us, but I'm not entirely sure if I can trust him. Hello, Bob. Hello, Sherwin.
Listen, age affects people in different ways. Then, that's why, look at Dr. Fonzie. I think he's 85.
Dr. Who? Hold on now. Dr. Who now?
Fonzie.
Ah, yeah, Dr. Fonzie.
Yeah, I think he's 85 and he looks and talks better than Trump or Biden. And Biden, during that debate, he was so just surprised that the moderator allowed Trump to lie so much. But I still think Trump would have beat him. And the other point, I'm getting you on the right trajectory today. And, Trump just ran against women. And God and this country is not having a woman in that position, that powerful position, because that's one of the most powerful positions on this earth. So that hooligan didn't go against nobody but women, but Biden put a foot in his behind so hard that he don't even walk the same. He walks different. Look at the way he walks. That man walks different. Biden tore that butt up. And, I want to get you on the right trajectory today, because you started off good. But I have to get you think about this. Dr. Fonzie is 85. He talks and looks, I think he's 85, and he talks and looks better than Trump and Biden because age affects people in different ways. And ain't no man a woman gonna run this powerful country. God is not going to allow it, and this country is not going to allow it. And then that's why Trump lucked up and got in. So I just
Bob, do you have any idea how offensive you just were to the majority of my listenership, which is, in fact, women? You said that this is ordained from God that a woman can't run the country. Don't you think the women would have something to say about that? Well,
I think they are now.
No.
Now,
Don't backtrack now, Francesca Hong. No. Stand on it. If you say a woman can't run the country, then say a woman can't run the country.
Well, a man can't have a baby, and a woman shouldn't be able to run this country. That's just the way it says it in the Word of God. That powerful position. I know you meant about being a church leader or whatever, but powerful position goes with the United States.
All right, let's leave it there, Bob. Let's leave it there. You're on the runway. We landed the plane. All right, now let's deboard.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
All right. He can say trajectory. That's, it's a good 50-cent word at least. But can't say Fauci. You can say trajectory, but call him Dr. Fonzie. Oh, Dr. Fonzie. Okay, that's...
Maybe the F is messing him up.
I don't know what his problem is. I mean, he's not entirely wrong in some of that, but I'm not going to agree with him while he's on the phone because then he won't shut up. I have long believed that Black people that are involved in politics have a very unique opportunity to, especially when elections are close, we can be a deciding factor in Wisconsin in particular. Now, we are a small share overall population and even smaller share of the voters, right? So we're about 4, if we're lucky, 5, not even 5. 4-point-something% of the overall population in the state of Wisconsin, but that's all African Americans. That's those that are sick, in jail, babies, children, toddlers, middle schoolers. And if you look at the slice of African Americans in the state of Wisconsin that are eligible and or registered voters, it's like maybe 2% if we're lucky, 1-point-something%. It's not a lot. But that 1% oftentimes is what can decide statewide contests. Do I need to remind you of the U.S. Senate primary in Michigan decided by 1 percentage point? And that 1 percentage point can kind of fluctuate from demographic group to demographic group. If young people are particularly motivated, and it seems like a lot of them are motivated by this brand of democratic socialism, then you can get your 1% from them, because if a few more young people, 18 to 29, are involved and engaged and they see something in a politician that they like, boom, that's where your 1% is. If you have a qualified African-American person running for office in the Black community, it's really engaged. And you have a lot of movement and momentum in the Black community. And a lot of people are knocking on doors and engaging Black voters and getting Black voters to register. Well, then you can get your 1% from the African-American community. But because we here in the state of Wisconsin as voters, we can be a deciding factor. I know that when you weaponize whiteness against each other, a lot of times there can be a benefit for the Black community, because if a white politician who might be insecure about their relationship with the Black community, when they see that it was Black voters that gave them the advantage, they will do more for Black voters and Black people in the Black community than even a Black elected official would. I need you to hear me. This is why I originally supported Joel Brennan, because I wanted to weaponize his whiteness and his insecurity with the Black community for our benefit. Because if he looked at the numbers, if he got through the primary, which, no way, Jose. He'd be like, holy smokes, the African-American community really showed up and showed out for me. Let me put a whole bunch of Black people in my cabinet. Let me make sure I'm doubling down on African-American issues, because then Joel Brennan would see his political future tied to the progress of the Black community. And all white folks want to brag about doing stuff for us. They always want, well, guess what, Blacks? Now you have better employment. Now you own more homes. Now you have more income because of me, Blacks. I think it's cool that we can weaponize whiteness against each other, but I want to put a white person, a white man against another white man, and then African Americans be the deciding factor, because then we get the most benefit from that. A guy named Ralph Northam, who was once upon a time the governor of Virginia, dude got caught in blackface in 1984. He didn't resign. He was like, sorry. It was what we were doing at the time. And Black people, we know how white folks are. And we were like, ooh, that's racist. He was like, I'm going to do whatever the Black community needs. He put together a legislative package that helped. If you look at Virginia, like African Americans in Virginia are doing better than anywhere else. Joe Biden overperformed with the black community, right? Remember when Bernie Sanders was in the primary and then black voters started voting in those early primary contests and they showed out for Joe Biden? Joe Biden was like, got you. Don't even trip. He then selects Kamala Harris to be his vice presidential running mate, nod to the black community. Then what does he do? Puts more black women on the federal bench than had ever served on the federal bench in the history of this country. Another nod to black people. Then puts Ketanji Brown Jackson on the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm going to rest my case and take a break. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Life's better with Drive My Way from American Family Insurance because we know it's more than just a car. It's your escape pod, your adventure mobile, your memory maker. And we help protect the dreams that drive you. Personalize what you pay for auto insurance and you could save between 10 and 35%. American Family Insurance. Get a quote and find an agent at amfam.com.
Products, pricing, and availability vary based on the way you purchase insurance and by state. Unsafe driving behaviors may increase your rate. American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating companies, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Brand new. Going out tonight, feeling sexy in my mood. Pink blush on my face, brown lip liner, lip gloss nude. Now he wanna lick my bum, but clock my rod to talk. Got him going crazy for that poo, nah. I get what I want, I got that ooh shalaka. He do what I say for that da.
I have to. I just have to play Pink Blush. I have to. It takes me over. Possesses my soul.
Hit a pause after that.
Huh? No pause.
Heavy pause.
No, I'm not pausing on anything. We're also not pausing on this election that's fast approaching. And I'm ready for it to come and go so we can analyze everything and get all angry and mad and start pointing fingers and blaming people. Don't blame black people. Whatever happens in this election, don't blame us. It's not going to be our fault. Place to blame somewhere else. Start blaming white women. Normalize blaming white women. But nobody wants to do that because they'll just start crying. I don't like the way you're talking to us. And then we apologize to them. White people. Are you guys offended when I say white people? I know some white people, Sherman, why you? I'm just talking about a demographic group of people that have very, very predictable behaviors. I'm going to dive into this this trust survey more in hour two because I want to extrapolate. Ooh, that's a word for that ass. Some information out of this poll so we can have a better understanding of who we're dealing with and looking at younger people in a very particular way because when they look at us, they don't trust us worth of nothing. But I get it. If you grow up in the world of the virtual world and the internet, everybody's a catfish, especially with these filters. Like, why are you doing that? You don't look anything like that, ma'am. Cut it out. That's not it at all. You don't even look even close to that. You don't look that way. Catfishing everybody. You can't believe anything because on the internet, you can reinvent yourself. You can be a whole troll. You can there are people that have, their social media accounts, whatever, which is them, but then they'll have a fake Instagram, a Finsta. And then they have an account where it's just like a cartoon is the avatar, and that's where they go and they troll people. You don't even know who you're talking to sometimes. I firmly believe that when people post racist things on some of these comment threads and you click on the social media account and you can obviously tell it's fake, I bet you a third of them are actually black people. I think black people have an alter ego where they want to post racist stuff. I really think so. There was something that happened on a college campus. It might have been in Marquette where a black student, she didn't like her roommate. She got stuck with a roommate she didn't like. When I was in college, I chose the single room. I paid a lot more money for it, but you ain't putting me with some country white boy from Wild Rose, Wisconsin. And that's an actual real place. Ain't no way. I couldn't take that kind of risk because some of the people that I went to school with at Oshkosh, they came right off the farm. Some of them was real cool though. They were ignorant. But I'm glad that I was the first black person that they met because I was more tolerant, I think, of their ignorance, because their ignorance was innocent. A lot of them are just very curious. Sherwin, are you in a gang? What's life like in Milwaukee? Does everybody have a gun? Yes, I'm in a gang, and yes, I have a gun, so watch your mouth.
Someone asked you that before?
Oh, my God, yes. And what's crazy is the 90s were a different time, because no matter how small town you were, I mean, just devoid. Mexicans weren't even in the small towns yet, because white people were still doing their farm labor. They loved hip hop. They had a fetish for it. These white boys, because, at the time, Tupac was out. Biggie and Tupac were still alive. And they all listened to hip hop. And so that's what they knew. Because if you don't know anybody, if you don't know any non-gangster rap black people, you assume that, right, that's what black people are. But I'm glad that I was the black person that they met. But I couldn't take the risk of being roommates with one of them, because that would just be a little bit too much. So at Marquette a few years back, I think it was at Marquette, a black girl found a noose hanging in her dorm room, or on the door of her dorm room, because she wanted to get rid of her roommate. And she's like, look, everybody, my roommates are racist. My roommate hung a noose on our door. She's got to get out of here. Well, we come to find out the black girl hung the damn noose. So sometimes I think we indulge a sinister side of ourselves, engage in racism against other black people, because, we do. Black people are very stratified. There's those of us, and then there's others of us as well. Still think that weaponizing our vote for the benefit of our community is how you play chess politically and not checkers. Let's discuss even more on the other side. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be back for hour 2.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Natural gas is a clean, reliable, and convenient source of energy delivered directly to you through underground pipelines. The pipeline system has an excellent safety record, but there are clues that can help you identify a potential hazard. If you smell the strong odor of rotten eggs, hear an unusual hissing sound, or see blowing dirt or debris, it could be a natural gas leak. Leave the area immediately and call We Energies at 800-261-5325.
We Energies. People you can trust. Energy you can depend on.
I always had to be so good, no one could ignore me. Carve my path with data and drive. But some people only see who I am on paper. The paper ceiling, the limitations from degree screens to stereotypes that are holding back over 70 million stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes, rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time for skills to speak for themselves. Find resources for breaking through barriers at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
I'm Chris Jackamick. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jackamick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
And here's Heather with the weather.
Well, it's beautiful out there, sunny and 75, almost a little chilly in the shade. Now, let's get a read on the inside of your car. It is hot. You've only been parked a short time and it's already 99 degrees in there. Let's not leave children in the back seat while running errands. It only takes a few minutes for their body temperatures to rise, and that could be fatal.
Cars get hot, fast, and can be deadly. Never leave a child in a car. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Babes, what are you doing?
What? I'm just mowing the lawn.
No, it's blazing hot and dry out here. Don't you remember? Smokey Bear says.
Avoid using power equipment when it's windy or dry.
Where'd you learn this?
Oh, it's on
SmokeyBear.com with many other wildfire prevention tips.
Right. Thanks, honey bear.
'Cause remember, only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Milwaukee Black Talk lives here on 101.7 FM and 1510 AM, W269DL Milwaukee, and WGKB Waukesha.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Can turn the lights when you look into my eyes. I know I want you deep into my thighs. There ain't no compromise. You made me wanna cry.
Welcome to Hour 2 of The Truth with Sherwin Hughes. For those that are inquiring, this is Clarissa. I interviewed her in studio a couple months ago, and I saw her perform at Shakers last weekend, 2 weekends ago. She never disappoints. She is touring the East Coast right now. I'll let you guys know when she's back in town. All right. I want to read some of these YouTube comments because what are y'all drinking this morning? And it ain't coffee. I don't know what it is about my broadcast, whether it's here on 101.7 The Truth or on my YouTube channel, Hughes Views 414, where people don't want to be sober when they're interacting with me. There's something about my style and my delivery of communication where people are like, I got to get drunk for this. And I think I'm going to call in while I'm drunk. Unca GED Productions 414 says, vote Kelda Royce. Whites will never trust Crowley. So Kelda's campaign strategy, which is just as weird as she is, and I don't use weird in a derogatory way. She's a very unconventional woman with a tremendous amount of confidence. A video that she put out maybe last weekend made its rounds on social media. It's an hour long of her in her kitchen wearing a bandana like Fran in her hair, and she's making spaghetti. And there's someone off camera asking her questions about the race and asking her questions about the issues. One positive thing I can say about her is she knows the issues very, very well. She's a very, very intelligent legislator. No doubt about it. Her political and campaign instincts, awful, tarnished, very bad. But it's difficult for, so you know how some people are type A and type B? It's really, really hard for someone who is like a savant on the issues, like they know the science of policy. And a lot of people don't. Donald Trump doesn't know the science of policy. Donald Trump only talks about and discusses things that make sense to him, and that's a very, very narrow worldview. Do you know that there was almost a bipartisan bill? Democrats and Republicans were coming together in the House of Representatives and in the U.S. Senate to advance a bipartisan bill to increase the supply of affordable housing in the country. It actually was a really, really nice piece of legislation. Donald Trump said he was not going to sign it, not because he didn't like the details of it, not because it cost too much, none of that, because he said it bored him. He was bored by a housing bill.
And the Save America Act.
So there are people that have a real profound understanding of policy, but it's often difficult for them to become relatable. And they try really, really hard. You ever meet somebody who's like otherworldly intelligent? Like they just, everything that they talk about is very complicated because they have such a profound understanding. They forget, or they've never known. They're almost they're on the spectrum. Well, I mean, everybody's on the spectrum now. But they're so intelligent that they're off on an island on their own, and nobody even understands what the hell they're talking about because they find it impossible to be relatable. It's almost like they've traded traded charisma for a really high amount of intelligence. And you'll get people that know policy really, really well. I'm not saying that Kelda's a savant genius. I mean, she's smart. I think she's the only lawyer running. But she is not able to translate her understanding of the issues, understanding of policy, and the future of policy. Because what you support right now is going to look different when it's implemented in the future. Every policy that gets created right now gets morphed, changed, chopped up, fattened, or thinned out with each biennial budget that we have here in the state of Wisconsin. So how something starts is never how it is going to end. The starting point is just a glimmer. That is why when Francesca Hong says she wants to sunset or end the parental choice program, if she got elected governor, it would die. And we're going to talk about that because that's where I draw the line. If anybody thinks for a second that I will cast a vote for a person who wants to dismantle a program, that the people whose shoulders that I stand on right here to be on air, they built that program over generations. Do you think that I would cast a vote for someone that wants to take it away? I simply cannot in good conscience or in good faith do that because a lot of those folks that came before me that put that program together, I'm going to see them again maybe one day at the pearly gates, and they're going to be very mad at me. And I want to be VIP in heaven. I want to sit in the front row. I want to have good seats.
Oh, you believe in that now?
And I want to stare down at earth. I'd rather believe in it a little bit than not believe in it and then find out when I get there, like, oh, Sherwin, you should have believed. Now go that way. I just want to stare down at earth and watch it like a movie. You know what I mean? Just watch everybody go nuts over stupid stuff. So that's my position. Like, I'm not going to say, oh, well, she's going to do all these other stuff. You don't get to tear down what black people built in this state against all odds. That's a non-starter. And also, if she is ignorant of the program, which she clearly is, and does not want to educate herself and does not want to involve and engage herself in an issue that is central to the black community, let me say what MPS is. MPS is, it's a flight that has been canceled or delayed. Now, eventually, you're going to get to your destination. Eventually, maybe these young people will learn how to read. Maybe eventually they'll get on grade level in math. Maybe eventually they'll get a high school diploma, or maybe when they're 27, they're 28, they'll get a GED. It is a flight that is delayed. The parental choice program is the airline saying, hey, you know what? We're going to find you another flight. We're going to put you on another airline because we want you to get to your destination quicker. Now, you can wait on this plane. You can sit standby for 3 days, for 4 days. You can. That's MPS. MPS is, well, just wait. We're going to do more funding. Just wait. We're going to fully fund public education. No. Just wait. We're going to get the kids on grade level. Sometimes you got to get to your destination. You can't wait. What the parental choice program is, and what Francesca Hong still unabashedly says that she wants to destroy and dismantle, is our flight to our destination. It's a rescheduled flight. If I'm flying Delta, and Delta's like, yeah, we've had some issues here with the plane, and we've got some issues with the crew. I mean, you can wait, of course. It might be a day or so. You know, we can put you up in a hotel. I guess we can make you comfortable while you wait. Or we can schedule you on this American Airlines flight, which leaves from Terminal 3 right now. Which one do you want to do? Only a fool will say, I'll just wait then for the Delta flight. I want the airline, which is MPS, if they are delaying the education of our children, which is delaying the workforce of the black community, which is delaying us being economically self-sufficient, I want the district itself to say, hey, you know what? There needs to be some alternatives because right now our flights are delayed. Now we're going to put you on this little puddle jumper, but you're going to get to O'Hare safely and quickly. You're going to get there. Now, we know that it's inconvenient for you because you booked this flight, but this flight is delayed. Here's another option, and there is nothing wrong with that. But expecting me to cast a vote for the delayed flight and expecting me and us and our tax dollars to just wait is insane. And here's what else that's insane. You would never ask white folks to do that, ever. You would never ask them to wait. They're getting on that other flight. Oh, they're going to make you get them a connecting flight, as they should, as we should. And it's very, very simple. Now, I also come to find something out There's a unity tour that's being planned in the state of Wisconsin, even though we don't know yet who's going to win the Democratic primary for governor, but there's already a plan in the works where all of these Democrats that are elected statewide and all over the place are going to travel the state with whoever the Democratic nominee is going to be. And the person that told me about this, they are a prominently elected Democrat, and they have some skepticism only because they know that if Francesca Hong becomes the Democratic nominee and there's this unity tour where all of these other, like actual real Democrats, are touring the state with her to show unity behind her, it's going to platform democratic socialism in such a way. It's going to obviously raise the profile of it. It's also going to allow someone who is a democratic socialist, not just here, but all over the country, to raise a lot more money, especially when you see unity, quote unquote, unity with other actual elected Democrats in the state. Here's why this person is worried, because he knows that he is going to have a democratic socialist opponent, even though he was invited to be a part of the unity tour. And it's a very calculated risk. Do you help a democratic socialist raise more money? Because if you think they're going to stop with Francesca Hong, you must not know how they operate. They're going to run for everything, and they are going to run against African Americans. And quite honestly, maybe they should, because that's how they platform their legislative agenda, because Fran is going to need some support. Here's what you need to know. The way they came into the Midtown neighborhood and they shouted down what they said was a data center, even though it was not, they will go into black communities and they will have some of these white folks run in black neighborhoods and get elected in positions that black people are currently serving in, all in favor of a much more left-leaning agenda, and that's real. And because they don't spare anybody's feelings. They don't care about your feelings. They know that they are lacking in legislators. There's only 3 of them in 132 Wisconsin legislators. There are 33 senators, and there are 99 members of the Wisconsin State Assembly. And in order for a Democratic Socialist governor to get legislation passed, they need more Democratic Socialist legislators. And they don't have them, and so they need them. So platforming Francesca allows democratic socialism to become much more mainstream, and when it becomes more mainstream, I'm going to say it. You ready for me to say it? I'm going to walk away from the mic and let you guys get a sip. I'm going to come back in a second. I'm going to say, hold on, let me get my coffee. I'll be right back. Don't go nowhere now. Once you start raising the profile of your political affiliation and start raising money, you become establishment. Because where do you think the money going to come from? Comes from the establishment. You think those sad, broke, rural, podunk white folks in Oklahoma and Kansas and North and South Dakota that are ardent Trump supporters, you think them rural white folks in Montana that still give Donald Trump an approval rating better than 50 or 51%, you think they got money to give to his campaign? You a new fool. Donald Trump's money comes from the establishment of the Republican Party. The establishment that at one point in time, the establishment of the Republican Party was never Trump. It was a whole cohort of people at the convention. They tried to take away Donald Trump's nomination. They tried to do, God bless them, what the Democrats did to Bernie. They formed another committee. They wanted to put together another rules session where they could actually find a loophole where they could stop Donald Trump from being the Republican nominee in 2016. Didn't work. The Democrats, though, did finagle the rules and stop Bernie Sanders from being the Democratic nominee because they knew what was going to happen. Democratic socialism, for what it's worth, if you look at it objectively, it's a virus. It can't really do much on its own. It's got to take advantage of the ineffectiveness of the Democratic Party and show up. The Democrats are losing. Kamala Harris lost. Donald Trump keeps winning. Donald Trump is a pedophile. We know all of those things. But what it's doing is it's saying we are better Democrats than Democrats can be. We're anti-establishment. We are for the common person, the working person who doesn't have, a fair shake in the wages they get paid. And of course, healthcare is too expensive. And all of that stuff is believable and very, very relatable. But they have to latch on to the host. The host is the Democratic Party. That's the corporate structure. That's the money. That's the state party. That's the Democratic National Committee. They have to latch onto a host because a virus cannot survive on its own. It needs a host. I'll give you another example. I love the virus host scenario. When you get a virus, your body responds to it by raising its core temperature. We know that as a fever because the virus can only survive in a very specific range of temperature. Can't survive on its own. It needs a host. And so what the host does is it raises its temperature to try and kill the virus. Now that we get really sick and we feel run down and we feel lousy and we have muscle aches and all. And it's weird because like your body temperature will go up, but when you get the chills when you have a fever, really weird, right? Because when you get the chills, that encourages you take a hot bath, take a hot shower, and to bundle up more to continue to raise and keep your core temperature high in order to kill the virus. And eventually, the virus does get flushed out. The planet Earth is the host. Human beings, with our conquest of land and our burning of coal and fossil fuels, and the vast majority of third world countries are still burning wood and releasing all of these carbon emissions. And what it's doing is it's increasing the carbon footprint and the carbon dioxide that is underneath the Earth's atmosphere. And very slowly the Earth is heating up because the polar ice caps are getting smaller and they're melting because Earth's core temperature is going up. Because what your polar ice caps do, they're like ice cubes in a drink of water. The more ice cubes you have, the colder and cooler and more predictable the temperature of your water is going to be. But once those ice cubes start to melt, and that's what's happening to our polar ice caps, because the sun's rays that come to Earth are being trapped underneath this film, this layer of all of the exhaust and all of the carbon emissions. Therefore, our polar ice caps, which act as the ice cubes in our drink, which acts as Earth's air conditioning, are starting to melt. And therefore, the oceans are getting warmer, the seas are getting warmer, and that also contributes to these polar ice caps that are melting at a very, very rapid clip. The Earth is heating up to kill the virus, which is people. It is a phenomenon that is as old as nature itself. That is precisely what is happening, and you cannot escape that natural phenomenon. There will be a host, there will be a virus. Either the virus itself kills the host, or the host raises its temperature and kills the virus, and there is no in between. You're listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. I'll be right back.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 101.7 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Our leaders need to stand up to Trump and Tom Tiffany, but Francesca Hong's record is a distraction we can't afford. Bizarre rants against holidays, from Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day, calls to defund the police, voting against protecting kids from sexual predators. We can't trust Francesca Hong to defend the progress we've built in Wisconsin. Call Francesca Hong at 608-266-5342 to say her record hurts us. Paid for by Wisconsin Future Rising.
Every day, Veolia and MMSD work together to ensure that Milwaukee's water system exceeds the high standard it's held to, protecting Lake Michigan and its rivers that run through our neighborhoods. That's 220 local employees who care about their jobs, running a system that's earned national recognition for excellent performance. But they don't do it alone. They're supported by locally owned small businesses, women-owned businesses, and minority-owned businesses. For 18 years, making our waterways cleaner all the time. Veolia, Milwaukee values, committed to its future.
When a warrior faces adversity, he fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
Here's the deal. We gotta set ourselves up. See, retirement is the long game. We gotta make moves and make them early. Set up goals. Don't worry about a setback. Just save up and stack up to reach them. Let's put ourselves in the right position. Pre-game to greater things.
Start building your retirement plan at thisispretirement.org. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
For 75 years, the Muscular Dystrophy Association's voices have thundered through the halls of Congress.
For 75 years, we've willed the impossible into existence.
For 75 years, the MDA community has pushed the science,
shifted the narrative, and established the field of neuromuscular medicine.
And until that day, when this is all a thing of the past,
you couldn't stop us if you tried.
Join us and celebrate 75 years of breakthroughs at MDA75.org.
Talking about guns with others might not always feel comfortable, but it could save a life. Here's a way to start a conversation. Your family is going over to your neighbor's home for dinner for the first time. How would you ask if there are any unlocked guns in the home?
Hey, we're so excited for tonight. Before we come over, though, may I ask if there are any unlocked guns in your home?
Our guns are stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access.
Awesome.
Learn how to have the conversation at agreetoagree.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
This is The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Al Walters says, where do I pick up these conversations that people are having in the YouTube chat? He says, I mean, come on, ass. We trust people every day. Every time you pull up to a fast food restaurant, you are trusting them to give you what you just paid for. How often are you disappointed, Al, by your experience at fast food restaurants? Either the food is of low quality, sometimes it's not what you ordered, or what about the customer service? It says, we trust people every day. Every time you pull up to a fast food restaurant, you are trusting them to give you what you just paid for. What if there's shrinkage? What if the sandwich you order got smaller? What if a small fry that you order got even smaller? Are you still satisfied? Do you go back to that restaurant because of that experience that you had? Does that erode your trust in that restaurant? I'll use myself as an example, which is not always the best one. But if I go to a new restaurant, which I'm often skeptical of, I like to read what other people say about a restaurant, but it's got to be people that I can relate to. Because what a 17 or 18-year-old might say about a restaurant and the decor and the food choices, because they might just like the fact that there's dino nuggets on the menu. I don't eat no damn dino nugget. So if I'm listening to a 17 or 18-year-old review a restaurant, even if they say it's good, I may not like it. So I want to read the review of someone who might be a cohort of mine, age or generation-wise, okay? And then I'll go to the restaurant based on somebody else's review, which is still a calculated risk. And if I go to a new restaurant and I have a bad experience, I do not go back. Maybe that's a bad thing. And I know that we have to have patience when you go to a new restaurant, because maybe they got some growing pains. Maybe they got some management issues. Maybe somebody didn't show up for their shift. This is what you're actually supposed to do. And so the Jews do this. And if you want to follow their footsteps and how they support one another and support their businesses, this is actually a good rule of thumb. So Jewish people are going to support a Jewish business even if they receive poor quality and they receive poor service, because here's what they do. They go back and they say, hey, last time I was here, this was messed up, this was messed up, this is messed up. Fix it and I'll buy again. And then they'll come back again another time, another week. Hey, last time I was here a couple visits ago, I wanted you guys to fix this, and this. And I did come back and I spent money again. Did you fix it? Yes. Now you got a customer for life. What I do, and this speaks to me specifically because I also believe in competition, if a restaurant cannot provide good and consistent food quality and service and an overall experience every single time, randomly, a Sunday night, a Monday night, a Tuesday afternoon, 5 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, if it's not consistent, then I'm just not going to go back because I don't have that kind of patience. And I know that there are other places that I have been to that are consistent no matter when you go. Doesn't matter when you go. Doesn't matter who's managing that day. Doesn't matter who the shift workers are. Doesn't matter who's on the line. Doesn't matter who's cooking. It is going to be consistent, and you can trust the consistency of that restaurant. But when it comes to new businesses and small businesses, especially black businesses, if you believe in supporting them, because it's almost like a religion for some people, like, oh, I'm going to support black-owned. I've fallen away from that only because saying a business is black-owned, being a part of your sales pitch, means that you're already looking for an out if your quality and your service is lackluster, because you can say, oh, well, we're black-owned and we're out here struggling. It's almost like saying, like a mom who raised a son and just shot 4 people. But I was a single mother. I'm a single mother. It gives an excuse, like a pretext excuse for everything to be all messed up. And I just personally, I don't do that. I don't allow somebody to give me an excuse on the front end. I will support a business that gives me superb quality, good service, and convenience. I don't care who owns it. And black people and white people and anybody else should have a monopoly on that if you're in business. White people don't have a monopoly on good service and good quality, but because they have been in business longer and they have gone through their growing pains and they know how to directly provide what the consumers want, they're a little bit more evolved sometimes in their business. But black people should be able to participate in that too. If you're a black-owned business, in fact, you should have an even higher standard of the food or whatever the case may be. This brings me to, I got to get into this damn poll about trust. Actually, let's see what we have on our YouTube poll. Yeah, it's pretty consistent. Can most people be trusted? 76% of you say nope. They cannot. 24% of you say, yep, people can be trusted. The Marquette University poll basically says it depends on your age. If you were born before 1960, 77% of the people born before 19 people say most people can be trusted. Only 23% of people born before 1960 say most people cannot be trusted. That's a little nerve-wracking because the older someone is, the much more likely they are to be taken advantage because 3/4 of them believe that most people can be trusted. If you were born in the 1960s, 63% of people born in the 1960s say that most people can be trusted. 37% of those born in the 1960s say people cannot be trusted. Let's get to my decade, the 1970s. 55% of us. Now, it's starting to get lower now. The younger you get, the less trust you have in other people. If you were born in the 1970s, 55% of us say most people can be trusted. So a shade over half of us. 45% of us say most people cannot be trusted. Here's where the big shift happens, and this is with the millennial generation. If you were born in the 1980s, 45%, so less than half of the people born in the 1980s, say that most people can be trusted. 55% of the people born in the 1980s say that most people can't be trusted. Imagine how this will impact our politics. So the younger someone is, the less likely they are to trust anybody, let alone a political party or any human being that is running for office. So if you look at that for what it's worth, the Democrats are a very established political party, at least since the realignment starting probably in 1948, give or take, when the Dixiecrats left the Democratic Party because they didn't like civil rights legislation and they eventually migrated over to the Republican Party, really solidified by Barry Goldwater, who was the Republican nominee in 1964. And this was a big strike against Hillary Clinton. because Hillary Clinton in 1964 was either a campaign worker, a volunteer, or a delegate for Barry Goldwater, and he started grabbing those Southern Democrats and bringing them over to the Republican Party. It's very simple. So whenever somebody says, oh, the Democrats are the party of slavery, that's like knowing only the first quarter in a football game and thinking that you know the entire score. No. There was a realignment that took place. Whenever somebody says that, stop talking to them because they are completely ignorant of history, and you're just going to get angry at them because they're just going to prove to be even dumber. As Democratic elected officials, especially in Congress, started to embrace ending Jim Crow and supporting voting rights and employment rights for black people and educational rights, because a lot of colleges and universities would not admit black people, as more and more Democrats in the South said, no, we need to be more open on civil rights, then more of those racist segregationist Democrats went to the Republican Party. Solidified with the Southern strategy implemented by Richard Nixon. He basically says, okay, come and be a Republican. I'm going to show you a kind of racism that you have never seen before. We're going to be more effective at punishing black people. And Richard Nixon was basically campaigning and said, your Democratic Party has failed you because look at all the civil rights these blacks have. Look what your Democratic Party has become. And a lot of the Southerners that were still holdouts were like, okay, well, let's give this guy Nixon a shot. Nixon is going to create a whole new way to discriminate, because when Jim Crow ended, racism didn't. It had to evolve, and it did so very elegantly. And one of the unfortunate things about Richard Nixon, if you look at the intelligence levels and the IQ scores of American presidents, Nixon is easily in the top 10, if not the top 5. Dude was brilliant. Sinister, evil genius, got impeached, was about to literally be removed from office and decided to quit. He flew away on a helicopter. He was like, hey, effective noon tomorrow, I'm out of here. I'm going to quit, because he knew that it would damage the Republican Party for a whole generation if he was actually impeached by his own party. So he was impeached in the House, and the Senate had enough votes to literally remove him from office. It would have been the first time in American history that has ever happened. And Richard Nixon was like, well, it's not going to be me. I'm going to leave on my own terms. I'm going to get on a helicopter and just fly away. Richard Nixon said, okay, the Democrats have disappointed you. Come and vote for me. I'm a Republican. But there were still some holdouts, right? Even those Southern racist Dixiecrats, like, well, we don't know. Republican Party is the party that freed the slaves. Could you imagine that conversation? Talking to a Southern Democrat in 1968 that was skeptical of the Republican Party because they didn't think the Republican Party was racist enough, because back then, 100 years prior to, the Republican Party were the Union soldiers and the Union generals that went and Juneteenth Day, and General Granger that went down to Galveston. Oh, by the way, Tom Tiffany doesn't believe in any of this, by the way. He's anti-Juneteenth Day, which, whatever. He can be anti-Juneteenth Day, and I don't care, just like Francesca Hong can want to cancel Thanksgiving. I'm still going to celebrate them both. That's just one person's opinion. I don't care about stuff like that. That's trivial to me. I care about education, but we'll get to that later. Richard Nixon said, okay, we can't just attack black people because that's now illegal. We can't segregate them. We can't segregate the schools because that's illegal. There's federal laws that prevent that. Nixon said, we're going to come up with something new. What if it's not a war on blackness? What if it's not a war on actual people that we don't like? What if it's a war on drugs? And the Southern Dixiecrats are like, we're listening. It's like if black people consume drugs like marijuana, we are going to increase the penalties and schedule marijuana, which everybody smoked, but it really was motivated by not just African Americans and everybody smoked weed, but it was also anti-Vietnam War protesters and hippies that Richard Nixon wanted to lump together, and the war was against them. It was a culture war. And then you start to have this thing called the silent majority, and they didn't like all this protesting. They didn't like all this civil rights stuff. They didn't like Dr. Martin Luther King. They also didn't like their kids on these college campuses and universities protesting the Vietnam War, because the Vietnam War was a war that was supposed to assert American dominance and American capitalism and American military might on every single part of the world, including Southeast Asia. We are an imperialist nation, and you better support the Vietnam War, which was arguably the worst foreign policy decision in the history of this nation. They sent 50-some thousand men and women to die. The war was over in 1968 when Walter Cronkite said the war is unwinnable. Lyndon Johnson didn't run for re-election because of what Walter Cronkite said, because he said if you lost Cronkite, you lost America. This goes back to trust. People born before 1960, 75% of them are very trusting. You know who people really used to trust? The media. That is why when you're talking to an older person, God bless them, they'll read something on the internet. It'll be completely fake news, and they'll believe it because they come from an era where if something was in a media outlet, it had to be true because America actually was known for honest journalism. Now it's all been taken over by corporations. Very, very fascinating stuff. Really is. So here comes Richard Nixon. And the Republican Party has not looked back since. You're listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 FM. I'll be right back.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 101.7 The Truth, The Truth app, and 101.7thetruth.com.
Educators Credit Union is more than a place to manage your money. They're where your financial possibilities take shape. They're more than transactions. They're conversations about your financial goals. More than numbers, they're community advocates who support free, local events that are accessible to all. They foster community because we are stronger together. Educators Credit Union is people helping people. Become a member at ECU.com. Insured by NCUA. Membership eligibility required.
Wherever there's a need in our communities, there's a united way. Improving lives so everyone can thrive. Where more people can gain access to health care and nutritious food for their tables. Where more community members can benefit from financial education and get connected to local resources for housing support. And where children are given more chances to reach their full potential. Community is where we find our strength and where we share our hope. United is the way. Visit unitedway.org.
Are people around me safe when I vape? Science does not support that belief. Exhaled vape emissions linger in the air, affecting indoor air quality and bystanders in the same space through secondhand exposure. Vaping emissions can also accumulate on clothes, hair, dust, and furniture, leading to exposure risks to bystanders of all ages. And vaping around a pregnant person can lead to serious health impacts on fetal and childhood development. Enough with the puff. Learn more at ul.org/vaping.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Reading aloud to children sharpens their listening skills, expands their vocabularies, and nurtures a lifelong love of reading. That's why Reading is Fundamental, the nation's leading children's literacy nonprofit, offers free monthly read-alouds by popular authors through its Rally to Read program. Visit rallytoread.org to watch the read-alouds and discover exciting reading activities for school and home. Visit rallytoread.org today.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 101.7 The Truth app, and 101.7thetruth.com.
phone number, you want to call or whatever, text message, 833-212-1017, 833-212-1017. We have a new text message feature, which they did this thing now where I got to log into my email and then the text messages that you send to 833-212-1017 come to my phone. But they switched it over and didn't tell me. All of a sudden my phone is blowing up and I'm getting text messages that people are. So my show was off the air, but I'm still getting text messages from other shows. I was like, ugh, I don't want that. So I turned it off. So if you're texting that number,
I understand your feelings.
So I don't know. I guess just call some people are nervous. Bob's not nervous. Bob doesn't even care what he says a lot of the times. Go to YouTube, I guess. YouTube chat. You got to be careful of the Kelda Roy's supporters. And so one of them was in our YouTube chat. So they have a strategy. So she has deployed her supporters. Her supporters, they kind of remind me of Francesca's supporters because they're very dug in. They're really super committed. I think there's something about Madison folk, when they vote for somebody and they elect them and reelect them, they really believe in them. So if you live in Kelda's Senate district, which Francesca does, those Kelda supporters are gung-ho for her. And so their strategy is they're going to go into every comment section on every social media post. And once I tell you this, you're not going to be able to unsee it. So whenever there's a news article talking about the primary race for governor, Kelda supporters will say, Kelda's the most qualified person in the race. She's ready to go on day one. It's almost like they're a bunch of robots, but they're not robots. These are actual people, and they believe. This is why our campaign strategy is it's laughable. They think that that's going to have an actual impact on voters. Too much emphasis has been put on advertising via social media. I know that's where you reach an awful lot of people. But if it's not met with something that's in person, like somebody attending a rally or a town hall meeting where the community is invited, then I don't know if just promoting your campaign on television or via social media is going to be enough, because it seems very distant and people want to have some kind of connection with the people that they're voting for. Because here's the thing, you probably will never meet them, you'll probably never see them, but it's nice to have them come into the community and do an event where they're a little bit more approachable. Because once they get elected and they're in Madison all the time, you're not going to see them. And so if your campaign is hiding behind a screen, it can diminish your potential effectiveness in convincing voters. I don't know if I could ever support a candidate for public office I only see them in my Instagram feed. If they're not actually doing things, if they're not actually showing up, if they're not in person, hey, we're going to be in Milwaukee this weekend, or hey, we're going to be in South Milwaukee or Cudahy, or we're going to be somewhere, that means a lot. I think Fran has done a fantastic job. Her campaign has been great, but she's also had a lot of liberty with what she can say. I think if there's a strike against establishment Democrats, they are not going to overpromise, because Democrats have been found guilty and indicted on overpromising and under-delivering, because they can rarely take into account how the Republicans are going to push back on their agenda. So whatever a Democrat is running on, it could be, I don't know, healthcare, public education, jobs, the economy, raising minimum wage. The Republicans are writing all of that down, and they're going to say, yeah, we're never going to let any of that happen. And I think this is where politics gets very tough and hard for regular folks to understand. Even if it is a good idea, raising wages at the end of the day, probably a good idea. Making home ownership more affordable, probably a really good idea. What else is a good idea? I don't know, women's reproductive rights.
Medicare for all.
Medicare for all, Xavier says, probably a good idea. But if it's a good idea and it's a Democratic idea, the Republicans are not going to support it. Republicans are not going to say, you know what, Democrats, that's a great idea. Let us work with you on having Medicare for all and raising the minimum wage and making home ownership more affordable and bringing down inflation. Let's us Democrats or let's us Republicans, let's work with you. Hey, everybody, the Democrats have a fantastic idea, and the Republicans are now going to join in and work with the Democrats on their agenda. And what will happen is, like, holy smokes, they work together. Bipartisanship is a beautiful thing. The legislation passes. People can afford their groceries, and homeownership is becoming less expensive. There's less barriers. Wages are going up. The Democrats will run for re-election on that agenda. And they'll say, hey, the Republicans helped us do this. People will just vote for Democrats. They won't say, oh, the Republicans helped. But none of them were Democratic ideas. Why would you ever vote for a Republican? So the Republican agenda, at least in the meantime, now it's gonna run out because eventually you got to do stuff and prove to the people that you're worthy of earning their vote. But they have been an opposition party. Democrats have really good ideas because their tent is bigger and they want to help more people. They want to help too many damn people and they go a little bit too far. Like, use whatever bathroom you like. Hey. If I go into the men's bathroom and I see a woman squatting in the urinal, like, we're all facing the wall. Because when you're using a urinal, you're all facing the same way. The wall. We're peeing in a thing that's connected to the wall. Right? But then let's just say there's a woman. Well, she can't pee facing the wall. She's got to sit down. And now she's facing the opposite direction. But she's a man, though, so she can. It's really funny to think about that. I'll be looking at them like, hey, ma'am, I'm not a ma'am, I'm a sir. Just because I'm sitting down and peeing and I'm facing the opposite direction that you all are doesn't mean that I'm less of a man than you. I'm probably have a bit of an extreme example.
Yeah, that's pretty extreme.
But our politics are, in fact, extreme. Like, something as silly as that could move 7 million voters in the United States of America. But the bottom line is, so for regular American people that are struggling, that are suffering, you unfortunately are falling victim to the lack of bipartisanship, because if one political party gets credit for creating a policy that helps you, then that political party is going to do much better. Republicans can't do that. Also, Republicans have got to be very careful of allowing Democrats to rack up political wins, because the demographic of people that typically vote for Republicans, like, they're losing people. One of the reasons why they try to ban abortion by overturning Roe, they didn't really ban it, they just left it up to the states. But whenever you leave stuff up to the states, please keep this in mind when you're understanding American history and politics. When you leave certain things up to the states, when the federal government is not like the nanny, the big babysitter, the parent, then states will do crazy stuff, okay? States will still maintain slavery. People will run on quote-unquote states' rights. So the federal government's like, yo, you can't, we're going to try and keep everybody under control here. States, you can't go crazy. And the states are like, why not? We want slaves, please. And the federal government, like, as the big nanny, is like, no, you can't. No, fine. So the federal government told states, oh, you guys can do whatever you want when it comes to abortion. You can monitor women's little period apps. You can do also, you can track them with flock cameras if they go out of state to get an abortion. You can fire them. You can do all sorts of stuff. That was to try to slow the number of white women now that are having abortions, because white women, there's more white women uteruses in America than any other uterus. So if a white woman gets pregnant to give birth to a white baby, in order to have white nationalism and white supremacy, you got to have white women having white babies. And white women are like, we don't want to have babies anymore. We want to be rich. We want to be childless. We also found that in 32 or 33 metropolitan areas where women don't have children, guess what? They make the same money as men. So a lot of women are like, oh, yeah, I don't want any kids because they're expensive and they're generally kind of gross. And, you know, they do stuff to your body. That's just the mechanics of having a baby is really, really scary. How do you squeeze out like a medium-sized watermelon out of something that really is like the size of a little coin purse, right? I wouldn't try to carry a watermelon in a coin purse. You know what I mean? I could understand. If I was a woman, I'd be like, just take my uterus out today. Put it, like, frame it. Put it in a jar. I don't need this thing. I don't want to get pregnant. But get pregnant by a man that can just leave? No way. So to punish women, white women, for having abortions because they have more than anybody else, they're like, oh, we're going to overturn Roe. We're going to leave it up to the states. And then maybe, just maybe, some white women who don't have access to birth control, which is a healthcare issue, maybe more of them will get pregnant and we'll have more white babies because white men need more white boys to be born in order to maintain their supremacy. But it also was to show that white women are so low on the totem pole that they're going to take something that impacts all women, but white women in particular. White men were like, yeah, shut up. We're going to take your right away, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. And what do white women do? Still voted for Republicans. That right there is probably the biggest impediment to our progress. White women won't vote for Democrats. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Yi Lang Zhang was born in Warsaw, the son of refugees who fled communism in search of freedom. His parents taught him that freedom comes with responsibility. And for Yi, that means being accountable to every person he serves. School board treasurer, county supervisor, village trustee, a nonprofit leader. Yi Lang Zhang has managed multi-million-dollar taxpayer budgets at every level. And now he's ready to be a watchdog for Wisconsin. That's why Yi is endorsed by Senator Tammy Baldwin. Baldwin says Yi brings, quote, real budget experience from the school board, the county board, and the nonprofit world. She says he'll, quote, protect our school trust funds, return unclaimed money to families who earned it, and bring accountability to an office that demands it. Yi Lang Zhang for state treasurer, a watchdog for your money.
Paid for by Yi for Wisconsin.
Life's better with American Family Insurance because we know you love working weekends. If it means working on your dream home, both inside and out. And we're here to help protect those dreams so you can enjoy peace of mind. Save up to 40% when you bundle home and auto. American Family Insurance. Get a quote and find an agent at amfam.com.
Products, pricing, and availability vary based on where you purchase insurance and by state. Some exclusions apply. American Family Mutual Insurance Company, SI, and its operating companies, 6000 American Parkway, Madison, Wisconsin.
This is The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Peggy Hedberg, a Madison resident, recently switched her support in the Democratic primary for governor from State Senator Kel DeRoy to Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, a decision she said she has made because, quote, pragmatically she wants to vote for someone to win. Roy's has been polling in the single digits. Hedberg said it was Crowley's energy that won her over. Quote, I felt like he had the strength to carry us, she said, noting that it was hard for her to switch. She said she cares about electing women, especially as abortion access is one of the most important issues to her, but she also cares about having a candidate who can work with the legislature to get things done. She says, I had to make a decision, and it was hard, but I felt that with Evers' backing and other factors that this would be a better way for us to move forward. Today is the last day. Hold on. Today's the last day you can register to vote if you want to vote early in person. Here it is. What's today? August, what now? 7th. Damn, August is flying by. State Fair is here. Back to school soon. You know what that means. Book bag giveaways. We're going to make sure that the kids have all the book bags. First of all, I think I had the same backpack from 4th grade until 8th grade. I didn't get a new backpack every year. These kids get new backpacks every single year. We do so many backpack giveaways. I do love how we we support our school children. We get them all the supplies and all the things they need and all the folders and the pencils and the pens and the colored pens and the pencils and the crayons. And if you got the 64 pack of crayons, you got all the colors in the crayon. We give them the backpack. Sometimes we even give away computers and whatever. The kids can't read, but at least they're going to have stuff for when they do learn how to read. Some of it is like, yeah, we want our kids to be successful, but also good. Get out of here. Go back to school. I'm sick of you hanging around the house eating all the food all day. So I think that we send them off with everything that they need to hope that they're going to actually be successful. Okay. The last day in which we have information was yesterday, Thursday, August 6th. 140 people voted at the Good Hope Library. 9 people registered to vote. At the Midtown Voting Center yesterday alone, 226 people voted. 13 new people registered to vote. The Tippecanoe Library, 193 people voted. 9 registered to vote. Washington Park, 100 people voted early. 9 registered to vote. The Zablocki Library, 137 people voted. There was 1 new registrant. And at the Zeidler Municipal Building yesterday, 271 people voted. That's not bad. 25 new people registered. The daily total for yesterday alone at the early voting sites in Milwaukee was 1,067 votes cast, 61 people registered. How many people have voted early so far? So this is not including today. So far, since early voting started on July 28th, so 2 weeks ago, 7,054 ballots have been cast and 338 people have registered. That's not a lot, considering we have 290. I'm just going to say 300,000 either registered and or eligible voters in the city of Milwaukee. Now, a lot of people are going to vote on Election Day, absolutely. And this also does not count people that may have voted by mail. But that number's typically pretty small, too, probably less than 10,000 people. But this is going to be a low turnout election. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be back for Hour 3.
The Truth with Sherwin Hughes returns after this on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
At Milwaukee College Prep, we believe brilliance lives in every child. Here, students are challenged, supported, and celebrated every single day. With small class sizes, dedicated teachers, and a proven track record of academic excellence, MCP is helping Milwaukee kids reach their fullest potential. Enrollment is still open for grades K-3 through 8. Spaces are limited. Apply today. Give your child a school where they'll thrive. Visit mkeprep.com or call today. Milwaukee College Prep, brilliance lives here.
Almost half of Milwaukee kids attend a school outside of MPS. Their parents chose those schools. Their families built those schools. Francesca Hong wants to end that choice. They'd phase out of Milwaukee's parental choice program. They'd shut down public charter schools. They'll force tens of thousands of Milwaukee families back into a system that's already failing our kids and can't accept them. On August 11th, vote for candidates who fight for our kids. Paid for by Leaders for a Better Community, Inc.
Doctors Without Borders is delivering life-saving medical care where it's needed most in communities around the world. From bandaging war-wounded patients in Sudan to providing clean drinking water in Haiti, we're in more than 70 countries worldwide, bringing patients from sick to recovering, from emergency to aid, from crisis to care. This life-saving care is made possible by a global movement of supporters like you. Thank you.
Can I sit in the front seat just this one time? Please, please, please.
No, not yet.
But why?
Because I love you, and you're just not ready yet. Now, get in the back so I can get you in your car seat, please.
Putting your kids in the right seat for their age and size is an act of love. Check that your kids are in the right seat at NHTSA.gov/the right seat. Love protects. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
In sitcoms, when someone has a problem, they just blurt it out and move on.
Well, I lost my job and my parakeet is missing. How was your day?
But the real world is different. Managing life's challenges can be overwhelming. So, what do? We get support. The Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council have mental health resources available for you at loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. See how much further you can go when you take care of your mental health.
Milwaukee Black Talk lives here on 1017 FM and 1510 AM, W269DL Milwaukee, and WGKB Waukesha.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
If I ever fall in love again, I'll be a friend. Yeah, it's gonna be a friend. I ever fall in love again, I'll be a friend. Yeah. I like them cool. I'm kinda cocky, not too much to make them move. They try to lock me, try to take away the jewels. You cannot stop it, gotta understand the rules. I've been the type to wear the heart on my sleeve. Been the one to always choose the wrong flame. Not the type to ever see me lonely. I keep my socks on during loving. In and out, baby, in and out.
Welcome to Hour 3 of The Truth with Sherwin Hughes. While there has been little change in overall trust, the youngest birth cohorts has shown a notable increase in trust over the years. Trust among those born in the 2000s increased from 23% in 2021 to 35% in 2026. That number is still underwater, though. So if you were born in the 2000s, in the year 2021, 77% of the people born in the 2000s didn't trust anybody. 23% did, but that did improve to 35% of the people born in the 2000s trusted people, but still 65% did not. That has a direct impact on political parties because if you have seen the Democrats and seen the Republicans and you already have a very low standard for politics, mostly because people don't understand it because civics is not taught, or if it's taught with a bias. It's not really taught objectively. You have to almost want to learn it and study it on your own to get the real facts. Or if you want a shortcut, just listen to international media because they talk about America like America actually is. Like they don't have a reason to sugarcoat or to lie or to misrepresent American history. Because, I mean, all the stuff that happened. Tell the story as it happened. Some of it is terrible. Some of it is very unflattering. But the whole point is to learn from it. And we don't learn from it. There's a Latin term called a saeculum. Saeculum is a very specific term that applies to the lifespan of a person. And it's roughly 80 years. Every 80 years, history begins to repeat itself if you do not teach the lessons. So in the lifetime of someone, if they don't use their lifetime to teach the younger generation, their children, their grandchildren, of what they saw and what they experienced in their lifetime, even the most unflattering, horrible, and atrocious things, if you don't teach the young generation, then by the time you reach the end of your life, you reach the end of one saeculum. Those young people, as they start to age, are going to repeat the mistakes of history. Now, this is a much more complicated conversation than I'm willing to have right now. But no matter how they explain it. So what was 80 years ago? 1946, roughly. Now, there's some variation. Saeculum could be 85 years, could be 72 years, whatever. But we just came out of World War II, where I could say a big factor in World War II, to put it lightly and diplomatically, was, well, there was a little bit of anti-Semitism. A little bit. I mean, well, kind of a lot. It was a theme amongst some of those involved in World War II. 80 years later, and you can say whatever you want about this, and I know that they do, because I'm seeing it, because it used to be the Republicans and the conservatives really hated the Jews. They hated them a lot. I'm starting to see that evidenced in both political parties. I don't listen, I'm just a messenger over here, but some of the anti-Semitism that existed pretty profoundly has found its way back. And the Jews are very sensitive about this because they want you to watch Schindler's List. And that's why Holocaust education is mandatory starting in 8th grade, because they are familiar with the Seculum. And what is one of the things that they say? They say, never forget. That is why they want everybody to tour Dachau and Birkenau and Sobibor and Auschwitz. They're open for you to go and you see the piles of shoes and the piles of personal belongings that people were stripped of because they thought that they were going to get their stuff back. They were no. They were just going to work for a little while. War is going to be over, and then they were all going to go home. Not many of them went home at all. In fact, you had some places in Europe that did not have any Jews left, and they're very sensitive of that. And I would argue that there is the appearance of anti-Semitism that has come back, but I'm not shocked by that. I also am seeing a decided rollback of civil rights. The civil rights movement really got its start after, of course, World War II, when black GIs fought very hard, very bravely, valiantly even, to try and earn the respect of the American people so that we could get civil rights legislation signed into law. Black men were drafted into World War II from the Jim Crow South, and that Jim Crow segregation also segregated the military. In fact, black GIs got the worst equipment, the most used guns and tanks and armaments and raggedy planes, and they still fought very valiantly to try and prove a point that black people were worthy of equal rights. I would argue that there is a rollback of civil rights. I would argue that the Voting Rights Act has been gutted. Affirmative action has been overturned. In fact, right here in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Institute of Law and Liberty is suing the state of Wisconsin to get rid of what is called a supplier diversity program. Soon we will be joined by Wisconsin State Senator Dora Drake, who did get her bachelor's degree, and she was able to receive a minority scholarship. That minority scholarship has now been ruled and deemed unconstitutional because it looks at race in determining someone's financial need to be able to go to higher education, completely sidestepping the fact that for many, many generations, black people were simply prohibited from attending colleges. This minority scholarship program, which is only $2,500 a year, was a nod to the fact that black people for so long were kept out of the opportunity of higher education. That scholarship is now unconstitutional, and guess who did it? A liberal Wisconsin State Supreme Court voted 7-0, and they didn't even have to take the case because on our referendum on the ballot in November, you're not going to see it when you vote next week, Tuesday, but in November, you are going to see a constitutional amendment that will ban affirmative action, diversity, equity, and inclusion in the state of Wisconsin permanently. This is not a bill. This is not an idea. This is not an ordinance. This will change the Constitution. If you go back 80 years, where were black people in the fight for civil rights? We were just really getting it underway because our GIs were some of the first crusaders for equal and fair treatment. So I can look at anti-Semitism and where it was during World War II and just after, and I can put that side by side with where the fight for civil rights and justice also was 80 years ago, and look where we are. Anti-Semitism is everywhere, and people will say, oh, it's AIPAC, and it's... I don't blame the Jews for wanting to invest in people and invest in candidates that are going to preserve who they are. I'm not mad at... We're just mad because they got a whole bunch of money to do it. But then what you do is, because we don't like the influence of money in politics, right? Especially I can understand the hardcore left and the progressives. They don't like the impact of and influence of money in politics. Just wait. Those same people that don't like the impact and influence of money in politics are going to be begging you to give money to Francesca Hong. But they're anti-establishment, right? Establishment is where the money is at. Watch how quickly they turn establishment when they have the opportunity to have an establishment candidate. Because the thing about democratic socialism, it's like a third party. It's not really credible yet. It doesn't become credible until it becomes part of the establishment until it becomes prime time, until it's up there on that stage with old school Democrats and old school Republicans. That is when they have actually arrived. So this whole anti-establishment thing, I think it plays well with people who are not really involved in politics, and they think it's all dirty and they think it's all tainted. And that encourages those folks. It kind of hypnotizes them into, being involved in this third party phenomenon, which is democratic socialism. But no, when you need money to run commercials and to do direct mail and to hire canvassers and to hire people that can man the phones and send all of the campaign related text messages, you will become establishment AF. You can also be rebellious and down with the system, and we're going to protest and we're going to march. In the 1960s, the hippies, we don't like war, we're going to protest. We don't want Dow Chemical to be an investor in the UW system, and we're going to do all of this protesting. And then they got married and had families and became conservative. Now, didn't they? They weren't rebelling anymore. They became establishment. I hate to break it to y'all, but the rambunctious, rebellious revolutionary is oftentimes because you are an idealistic child and you want the world to be as you imagine it in your dreams. But what happens is you grow up, you mature, you got responsibilities, you got rent to pay, you got bills, your babies that you have to feed. You don't care about rebelling against the system. You got to feed your children. You will become establishment. So miss me with this whole anti-establishment stuff. At some point, everybody grows up, everybody matures, and everybody wants to preserve and conserve what they built. Ain't nobody who's got a house, 3 kids, and a family they got to take care of. Ain't nobody, I'm going to go and I'm going to rebel. I'm going to protest on my job. No, you're not. You're just going to be angry, but you're going to work and get your 401k and retire. Take a break, come back. I'm going to talk to State Senator Dora Drake on the other side. She's got an announcement to make. She's running for president. No, she's not. Maybe. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Each early detection, each shortened hospital stay, each quick recovery reminds us why we serve. From first breaths to complex surgeries to rehabilitation that gets you back to your family sooner, we stand ready, quietly preparing, focused, and guided by one promise: to be fully devoted to you. Ascension, Wisconsin. Advanced care devoted to you.
Our leaders need to stand up to Trump and Tom Tiffany. But Francesca Hong's record is a distraction we can't afford. Bizarre rants against holidays, from Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day, calls to defund the police, voting against protecting kids from sexual predators. We can't trust Francesca Hong to defend the progress we've built in Wisconsin. Call Francesca Hong at 608-266-5342 to say her record hurts us. Paid for by Wisconsin Future Rising.
For 250 years, our armed forces have bravely served America. Wounded Warrior Project honors that legacy by supporting post-9/11 service members and veterans like Anthony, a Marine who was injured by a roadside bomb in Afghanistan.
They carried me through my injuries, not just my physical, but my mental. And seeing other vets doing the same thing helped me tell myself, hey, you can do this.
Join us in honoring warriors at woundedwarriorproject.org/America.
In the United States, a vehicle is stolen every 31 seconds, about as long as this message. Luckily, you can take a few easy steps to protect your car in the same amount of time. Remove your valuables, roll up your windows, don't leave your car running unattended, lock your doors, and take your keys or fob. If you have information about a crime, call the police. If you suspect insurance fraud, also call 800-TEL-NICB. A public service message from the National Insurance Crime Bureau.
I always had to be so good, no one could ignore me. Carve my path with data and drive. But some people only see who I am on paper. The paper ceiling The limitations from degree screens to stereotypes that are holding back over 70 million stars. Workers skilled through alternative routes rather than a bachelor's degree. It's time for skills to speak for themselves. Find resources for breaking through barriers at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is "My job is people, everyone is my business." But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide. My service never stops.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
And here's Heather with the weather.
Well, it's beautiful out there, sunny and 75, almost a little chilly in the shade. Now, let's get a read on the inside of your car. It is hot. You've only been parked a short time and it's already 99 degrees in there. Let's not leave children in the back seat while running errands. It only takes a few minutes for their body temperatures to rise, and that could be fatal.
Cars get hot, fast, and can be deadly. Never leave a child in a car. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
In studio, as promised, Wisconsin State Senator Dora Drake. Hey, Dora, how you doing?
Hey, Sherwin, how are
There
you?
we go, much better. I'm doing, I guess, as well as I can be, considering we have, a little something going on, a little election going on. Today, in fact, is the last day for people to register if you want to vote early, so we want to make sure folks know about that. You serve in a very specific capacity. Not only are you a senator representing Wisconsin's 4th District, you're also the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus.
Yes.
So it is your job, essentially, to make sure that there is a worthy agenda that, of course, can not just galvanize other black legislators, but also show and prove some opportunities for black voters and black constituents in the state of Wisconsin. And because of that very specific role, you're not in the business of picking one Democrat versus another. Typically, elected officials don't.
I usually, try to stay out of races of this magnitude, just because, early on, all of these folks that have been in the, that were running for governor are friends of mine. I've seen them work in different capacities. But I will say that changed when I watched the debate, like many others. And so before that reason, after watching the debate, I have decided to endorse our county executive, David Crowley, for governor for a couple of reasons. One, he is someone that has the receipts of what it means to get stuff done, right? He served on the legislature. Before I even got into legislator, was able to get some legislation pieces forward. But he is the only person that has the experience of delivering as an executive, right? Whether we're talking about addressing public safety, resources for county, services, the whole nine, affordable health care, things that Democrats are championing and want to push forward. I want someone that's going to deliver results versus just stating, what political platitudes they may do. And the reality is that, as chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, there are nuances when it comes to certain policies that impact Black and brown families and their children. I believe that he's the only one that is able to navigate that while still trying to get things done, able to defeat Dom Tiffany in November and be able to govern on day one. And that's what Wisconsin needs. We need someone that's focused on what it moves to move our state forward, especially in a very tumultuous political climate, but still recognizes that people at the end of the day want things done. They want to make sure that they can afford their homes. They want to make sure they can get their, that they're paid well. All these things are basic needs that I believe has gone so far off because of all the attacks that Republicans are trying to distract voters from focusing on August 11th.
I want to point out how rare and unique this moment is, because someone who is a current legislator, rare do they endorse someone in a primary, but also even more rare is the incumbent Democratic governor has recently put his support behind David Crowley. Senator Drake, your thoughts on that? Because Tony Evers is not known to be like an overly political guy. He probably would just let the process play out.
He is very much someone that is just focused on getting things done. And there have been things I've disagreed with the governor on in the past, right? But at his core, he is someone that really wants to move Wisconsin forward. I do think with him endorsing David Crowley is unprecedented, and I think it caught a lot of folks off guard. And I know there's this whole argument about the establishment candidate. The reality is that David's background speaks for himself. You know, he grew up in the 53206 right here in Milwaukee. He knows what it means to move out and be able to do amazing things and still lead in spite of what's happened. For our governor to come out and endorse someone like him means that he sees something in David that our state needs. And so, yes, this is a very unusual primary that has happened over, this, time frame, but I think it speaks to the urgency of where Wisconsin will go forward, given who our nominee will be in August.
Puts you in a bit of a sticky situation because when you were in the assembly, Francesca Hong was also in the assembly. You and her were colleagues, so I'm sure you got to know her.
Yeah.
You are now colleagues with State Senator Kel DeRoy,
I am.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're endorsed, and both of them are running for governor, but then you're endorsing David. Any word from them? Did they respond at all? Or
one of them did. I mean, obviously, you would want your colleagues to support them. I think there's regular discipline that might come with that. And to their credit, like I said, I've never discredited the work that either of them done. With Francesca Hong, she is compassionate. That is something that's true of her and how she went about her work in the assembly. With Senator Roy, she is very well knowledgeable of the issues. But knowing that we need someone that has the legislative experience, that has delivered, and can govern, David's the only one that fits the criteria.
Former candidate but current Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, she was running.
Mm-hmm.
Then she wasn't. Then David Crowley dropped out, and he was going to put his support behind her. So you just watching the race from afar.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts on that? Because it did show a level of inconsistency, and then David gets back in the race. Do you think that does that hurt this campaign at all?
Oh, gosh. I will say this. I think folks were shocked about the news with Lieutenant Governor's news and why she dropped out. And it's unfortunate because, frankly, I would hate to see anyone be put in that position itself. On the flip side, I think David Crowley made a decision on trying to make sure like whoever is going to be the best to win. In that, I think the reason why he got back in the race is because he had so many folks from the community reach out and say, please get back in. That is unusual when you hear folks from your very own community and out there, supporters saying, we know they stepped up, but we think you still have a chance. And I think that speaks to leadership that's called to something greater versus you believing that you can do something yourself. Because now you have an established credibility in various areas of Wisconsin. And I think because that happened for David Crowley, I think that there is a chance that he will win on August 11th.
Mandela was in the race too. He's not anymore. Any thoughts? I gotta ask you.
I know.
You know where you at, Dora.
No, I know. I will say with Mandela, he ran for U.S. Senate, a couple of years ago, and he was so close to winning.
Was that a mistake for him to run? Hindsight being 2020.
I think he probably should have been our state as a lieutenant governor personally because he would have been able to run for our governor.
There'd be no primary if Mandela was a lieutenant governor. Would you agree with that? You think anybody would primary him?
Of course, folks would primary. People primary folks all the time. I can't say that.
I don't even know if Francesca would have primaried him because imagine if he's the heir apparent. Tony Evers says he's not running again in 2025. Mandela's still a lieutenant governor. He never quit that position to run for Senate. Let's imagine that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Mandela, of course, has got the momentum at his back. He's been a lieutenant governor for 2 terms. If Francesca entered that race, then the relationship between the two of them would have been that entire contest, and I don't think that she would have jumped in to primary him. However, I could be wrong, but neither here nor there.
Mm-hmm.
So did Mandela, do you think he brought any value to the race? And where did his supporters go, if you had to guess? If you're a Mandela person, who do you think that they would now support?
Well, a lot of Mandela's following were folks that were progressive, but I also know that they also understand some of those nuances of the things I've mentioned on how policy can impact Black and brown folks differently. So I think it'll be an interesting mix to see folks move either probably towards Crowley or Francesca Hong. But I do think that in the upcoming days ahead, it's a matter of just getting the vote out. So having make an assumption here, but I would hope that some of those supporters of Mandela would, hopefully transfer over to Crawley if they haven't voted already, because that's obviously another dynamic too. Some folks are recasted their ballot and their candidate is no longer in the race anymore. And I know that some folks have been frustrated with that, right? And it doesn't help that our courts upheld the decision where folks can't spoil their ballot in order to select someone new that is still actually in the race.
What would you say are the top issues on voters' minds? And you don't just travel in the 4th Senate District, you actually travel all over the state. And when you hear from people, what do you think is top of mind right now?
I think the top of mind really is affordability issues. And that's something that David Crowley has talked about extensively. There is a dire need to figure out how to address housing. Housing is a top issue where folks can't afford rent or they're trying to become a homeowner. That is something that we're increasingly see. There's a large issue on just being able to pay for your basic needs. So I know that there's a need for union jobs, increasing the minimum wage. Those have been things that have been talked about multiple times. There is a conversation of data centers. That is something that a lot of folks have been paying attention to because of what's happening in these hyperscale AI data centers in different parts of the state. And in that, you have folks that want to focus on ensuring that there are job opportunities that are union-based, but also that the environment's protected and that local control is respected. I think all those things are completely valid. And I think knowing that David has a unique perspective of what it means to govern, what it means to hear all the stakeholders at hand, how to do it responsibly in a way where it still protects citizens, everyday people, while still hopefully providing opportunity for folks to actually provide jobs. Because we know if you don't have jobs, you don't have folks that can cover their bills. And then with that, our economy drops, and then everything starts to go to wire.
We are speaking with State Senator Dora Drake, who represents the 4th State Senate District. She is also the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk about this thing that has just been looming over this race, probably unlike any other issue that I've heard, and it's this thing called the establishment. We're going to talk about what the establishment is, why it has been so demonized, and what impact it can have on the race. It also should be noted that State Senator Dora Drake is endorsing and supporting David Crowley for governor. We're listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes. Myself and the senator will be right back.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 1017 The Truth, The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
For 18 years, Veolia has done more than treat Milwaukee's water. Our people have raised their families here, built careers here, and been a part of the community. Generations of workers, millions of dollars a year invested in local businesses, a workforce center built to give young Milwaukeeans a real path into good local careers. 18 years later, Veolia is still here because Milwaukee's still home. Veolia, Milwaukee values, committed to its future.
In Milwaukee County, equity means making sure everyone has a real chance to thrive. That's why the Milwaukee County Office of Equity works to help remove barriers, strengthen community connections, and support fair access to opportunities across Milwaukee County. Want to learn what they do, explore resources, or find ways to get involved? Just search Milwaukee County Office of Equity online. Milwaukee County Office of Equity, advancing equity for all Milwaukee County residents. For more information, search Milwaukee County Office of Equity online.
Babes, what are you doing?
What? I'm just mowing the lawn.
No, it's blazing hot and dry out here. Don't you remember? Smokey Bear says.
Avoid using power equipment when it's windy or dry.
Where'd you learn this?
Oh, it's on
SmokeyBear.com. with many other wildfire prevention tips.
Right. Thanks, honey bear.
'Cause remember, only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
When a warrior faces adversity,
He fights through it. He finds a way. Freedom isn't free. Rolling strong. Belief. Believe you can, and you will.
Wheelchairs for Warriors provides mobility solutions to veterans and first responders injured in the line of duty. Join the mission and visit wheelchairsforwarriors.org.
Here's the deal. We gotta set ourselves up. See, retirement is the long game. We gotta make moves and make them early. Set up goals. Don't worry about a setback. Just save up and stack up to reach them. Let's put ourselves in the right position. Pre-game to greater things.
Start building your retirement plan at thisispretirement.org. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
For 75 years, the Muscular Dystrophy Association's voices have thundered through the halls of Congress.
For 75 years, we've willed the impossible into existence.
For 75 years, the MDA community has pushed the science,
shifted the narrative, and established the field of neuromuscular medicine.
And until that day when this is all a thing of the past,
you couldn't stop us if you tried.
Join us and celebrate 75 years of breakthroughs at MDA75.org.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Welcome back to the program. In studio, Wisconsin State Senator Dora Drake. She is announcing her support, her endorsement of Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley for governor, which is a very unusual and unprecedented thing to do, because as the chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, like, you have a legislative role to make sure that we have good policy and that agendas are right where they need to be. But for you to get in this race and endorse must say an awful lot about David Crowley, right?
Absolutely. And I will say this because, you know, I have the pleasure of working with David Crowley in that capacity, right? There have been things that he and his team has come to myself and several legislators on what Milwaukee needs from the state. And it's no surprise that Wisconsin currently is under Republican majority leadership. And if anyone knows the trouble and the blocks that comes with trying to push legislation forward to just get dollars and resources to Milwaukee County and folks here in general, it is a mountain to climb. In that I've been able to see and witness how he has been strategic. He has been always forefront of what his priorities are and being able to get resources through the finish line. That is a certain level of skill that requires more than just, you know, yelling about what the issues are at. That takes relationship building. That takes tactic. That takes strategy in order to get things done. And frankly, I would rather have someone be our governor that can do that, especially in a time when our current governor and our AG were really the front lines of preventing a lot of harm to happen to Wisconsin from the Trump administration. You need someone that can navigate all those pieces while still moving Wisconsin forward and delivering on policies and things that Democrats have championed for years.
When you found out that the Wisconsin State Supreme Court, a liberal court, by the way, voted 7-0 to basically take away a minority scholarship, your thoughts on that? Because I know that you have a personal connection with that scholarship. And also, what does that say in general about where our politics in Wisconsin are going?
Oh, I'll be frank. I was pissed.
I saw your your press release, and you were not a happy camper.
No, I wasn't. I found out literally actually while I was just ending a press conference for a great organization, the McCannon House. I was focused on opening a food kitchen for the community. That's when I found out right after that conference. I was flabbergasted that we are here to this point, but not completely, because this is why. And was one reason why the Legislative Black Caucus went on state tours last year and announced our policy agenda this year was to make sure that there's accountability issue. One, because I do believe that Black voters are so tired of showing up for Democrats while getting very little for their vote. And that is real, because we have been the backbone of the Democratic Party. We continue to show up. And frankly, our Black vote turnout is what keeps our base strong here in Wisconsin specifically. The fact that we are in a time where federally we are seeing our Voting Rights Act completely decimated and the affirmative action, overturned as well, there is not a desire to, the courts aren't supporting it. And it's gotten to the point where even if you're showing that the facts are there, that's not even enough to be held in court. That's the dynamic that we're dealing with right now. And so when we talk about, who's going to be our next governor, it really dictates the trajectory of where the party is going to be moving forward. You need someone that is going to obviously stand for democratic values, deliver on a lot of progressive policies that we've been fighting for years, as well as uplifting those that are most disadvantaged. Those two are not separate. They're simultaneous. And I do believe that too often, unfortunately, you can have some folks well-intentioned that are trying to push for progressive agendas, but if you're not prioritizing Black and brown issues at the core of that, you're missing the mark. And that's where I do believe Black voters are really caught in this middle spot of, we know Tom Tiffany is going to do horrible damage because of what he's done already at the federal level. But we need someone as our governor nominee and who could defeat Tom Tiffany to actually move our state forward, especially in a state where we're still dealing with the highest disparities for Black folks in all different capacities.
Do you believe that the candidate who has been leading in the polls in this primary has prioritized African-American issues? And I say that because we have seen a liberal state Supreme Court overturn a minority scholarship. We have a conservative law firm that is suing to end the supplier diversity program, which is something that the state of Wisconsin has never met as far as getting a certain number of minority-owned businesses opportunities to get contracts with the state. And then we have this referendum. If all the other things were not insulting enough, to add insult to injury, there's a referendum on the ballot in November. Do you believe that the leading candidate has prioritized those things to the level where we could feel comfortable in supporting her?
I don't believe so, and this is why. I do believe that there needs to be accountability on a lot of the things that she's talking about, right? There should be some sort, she wants a moratorium on data centers. I think that there needs to be a little bit more discussion about that because folks need jobs. And in that sort of speaks to the need for the highest Black unemployment rate here, and how we can address that. I do think that in her goal of trying to move our state forward, that sometimes you're missing on the basics of, the issues that we're still fighting for, like literacy, making sure that children can still read and write. What does it mean for the achievement gap? Yes, we need to address our public schools. That is a reality. However, there's a lot of constituents of mine that do go to alternative schools. And so the conversation needs to be focused on what does education look like to provide quality education that's fully funded in order to ensure that every child gets what they need. And that is something that is nuanced in the policies and what I refer to. And so for that reason, I do believe that her campaign, strives to do that. But if you're not aware of the nuances, then you're going to miss the mark regardless if you meant well intentions or not.
Senator Drake, where did this whole establishment conversation come from? I come to find out that I'm establishment. I went to bed one night and I was Sherwin. I woke up the next morning and I apparently was establishment. You're establishment, and David Crowley is establishment, and Governor Tony Evers is establishment. Where did that come from? What does that mean? David Crowley actually said something that was posted on social media that he took offense to being called quote-unquote establishment because he grew up in a rough zip code. He had to work very hard to get to where he was. What is this whole establishment thing about?
So my personal thoughts, I think it's just jealousy, if I can just call it out for what it is. But I do think on the flip side of it, it's folks believing that you have high-end donors, folks that have a lot of influence and power within the Democratic Party, stating who they want to be the nominee. And I think David has been called that because Governor Evers did endorse him, as well as a slew of other local and state electeds that have come following supporting him. I think what folks are and to add to that, I know Congresswoman Gwen Moore has endorsed him, as well as the Congressional Black Caucus. In that, I do believe that there is a distinction, and I sort of spoke to it a little bit earlier, where, David sole decision to get back in the race, I really do believe was because people called him to get back in. That's different. You know, it was people in the community that believed in his leadership, believed that in the 6 years of governing that he can do more for Wisconsin, currently, you know, more than he is as a county exec right now. And in that, I do believe that there's this mixed bag of who's the establishment. Because if we look at, say, Francesca Hong, she has other national leaders that are endorsing her. You have Congresswoman
Bernie isn't, though. That should be noted. Bernie's like, nah.
He is not. I did see that he's not getting involved. But she has other national politicals and Congress individuals that are supporting her. And technically, they're part of the establishment, too. And so I think it's a matter of, I don't understand where the establishment really is coming from, except from this is the only thing that they can say about him and why he shouldn't be governor.
I sometimes wonder, and I go back and forth on this, is her campaign more about beating and bludgeoning the establishment of the Democratic Party, the bedrock, the foundation, the people that keep the Democratic Party honest and focused on the issues that make Democrats what they are? Is the focus on diminishing them, or is the focus on actually beating Tom Tiffany? Because you are not going to be able to do both. You're not going to diminish the bedrock and the foundation, including the part of the Democratic Party that gives money. I don't know if you can diminish them and make them feel less than and make them feel like they are part of the problem, when the real problem is Tom Tiffany and Trumpism. So I'm trying to figure out how somebody squares that circle of bludgeoning, disrespecting, and demeaning actual Democrats. That is the party that she is running with, essentially. How do you bludgeon those people and disrespect them, want to join their party, be their nominee, but then also try and beat Tom Tiffany? So I just think that the whole establishment thing is a bit of a distraction. We're going to take a break, come back. State Senator Dora Drake is here. She's got some news for y'all. She's running for probably re-election to the Wisconsin State Senate. She's also supporting and endorsing Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, and she is in good company in doing so. Congresswoman Gwen Moore is endorsing, and also Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes. Will be right back.
Don't touch that dial. The Truth with Sherwin Hughes will be right back on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Our leaders need to stand up to Trump and Tom Tiffany, but Francesca Hong's record is a distraction we can't afford. Bizarre rants against holidays, from Thanksgiving to Valentine's Day, calls to defund the police, voting against protecting kids from sexual predators. We can't trust Francesca Hong to defend the progress we've built in Wisconsin. Call Francesca Hong at 608-266-5342 to say her record hurts us. Paid for by Wisconsin Future Rising.
Talking about guns with others might not always feel comfortable, but it could save a life. Here's a way to start a conversation. Your family is going over to your neighbor's home for dinner for the first time. How would you ask if there are any unlocked guns in the home?
Hey, we're so excited for tonight. Before we come over, though, may I ask if there are any unlocked guns in your home?
Our guns are stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access.
Awesome.
Learn how to have the conversation at agreetoagree.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Wherever there's a need in our communities, there's a United Way, improving lives so everyone can thrive. Where more people can gain access to healthcare and nutritious food for their tables. Where more community members can benefit from financial education and get connected to local resources for housing support. And where children are given more chances to reach their full potential. Community is where we find our strength and where we share our hope. United is the way. Visit unitedway.org.
Are people around me safe when I vape? Science does not support that belief. Exhaled vape emissions linger in the air, affecting indoor air quality and bystanders in the same space through secondhand exposure. Vaping emissions can also accumulate on clothes, hair, dust, and furniture, leading to exposure risks to bystanders of all ages. And vaping around a pregnant person can lead to serious health impacts on fetal and childhood development. Enough with the puff. Learn more at ul.org/vaping.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Milwaukee, mark your calendars. Truth Family Fest on Saturday, August 22nd from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Riverside University High School. Interested in volunteering? Visit truthfamilyfest.com or by emailing Sierra, CIERRA.brown@milwaukeeblackmedia.com. Special thanks to Educators Credit Union, American Family Insurance, Milwaukee Public Schools, Artists Working in Education, City of Milwaukee, Department of Community Wellness and Safety, and Ascension for helping make this event possible.
Reading aloud to children sharpens their listening skills, expands their vocabularies, and nurtures a lifelong love of reading. That's why Reading is Fundamental, the nation's leading children's literacy nonprofit, offers free monthly read-alouds by popular authors through its Rally to Read program. Visit rallytoread.org to watch the read-alouds and discover exciting reading activities for school and home. Visit rallytoread.org today.
You are listening to The Truth with Sherwin Hughes on 1017 The Truth app, and 1017thetruth.com.
Desperado, sitting in a old Monte Carlo.
Welcome back to the program. In studio, Wisconsin State Senator Dora Drake. She is supporting and endorsing Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley for governor. You've got a very unique role, Dora. Not only are you chair of the Black Legislative Caucus, you also are a member of the Wisconsin State Senate. You guys are just on the cusp of getting a Democratic majority in the Senate, and it is possible that there could be a Democratic majority in the Assembly, something we haven't seen in a very long time. Talk about the importance of making sure that there is a Democratic majority in both houses and how that can make legislation fly through a little bit easier.
Absolutely. So one, I am serving as the vice caucus chair for the Senate Dems. And when I tell you that because we do have fair maps, that we have candidates, amazing candidates that are currently running, and we know that they will win their elections. And in that, we've been doing our part and trying to get support for them as well. What happens with the legislature and the Senate and the Assembly will dictate how far Wisconsin can move forward and who our governor nominee is. Right now, we know that in the Senate, we are confident that we will get the majority. But the ultimate goal is to get that trifecta, because the reality is, if there is a scenario where our governor is Tom Tiffany and you have divided government or divided legislature where it's Democrat, we will be in a situation where we are introducing policy after policy, focusing on healthcare, focusing on jobs, things that Democrats have been wanting for years, protections, for folks, because we have to do that too. And it will be vetoed by the governor if it is Tom Tiffany every single time. On top of that, the governor can do executive orders and call for different special sessions. So what we currently have been dealing with a Republican legislator that has tried to push so many things forward, we've been able to have that block because Governor Evers was our governor. If it is those flip way around, that means that we cannot deliver the way that we want to for Wisconsinites. And so the importance of having someone as the nominee that can beat Tom Tiffany and govern on day one will also impact the ability for Senate Democrats and Assembly Democrats to move the needle forward for Wisconsin, which is why this nominee election is so key. And so I know that there are folks that are still undecided in the polls. I do think that there is still an opportunity for folks to make a decision and to come out and vote. And that's one thing that I do want to highlight, because it is GOTV weekend, y'all. And we know that this is the time to get votes turned out. And so Team Crowley and his campaign is having a statewide tour where they are getting the vote out. And so you can RSVP at crawleyforwi.com/events, and you can register to do doors and to get out the vote. They have some in Sheboygan, Green Bay, Wausau, Eau Claire, Madison, Green Bay, and Milwaukee. They're covering all parts of the state, y'all. And so if you're wondering how can I get plugged in, RSVP and get the vote out, whether that's door knocking or phone banking, because we know that Democrats always deliver when it comes to voting. And this is our opportunity to ensure that we have David Crowley be our nominee for governor.
Senator, what is that website one more time?
It is Crawley for hold on. crawleyforwi.com/events. And then that way you can RSVP and sign up for shifts in order to do doors, phone banking, whatever we need to do to get the vote out and push for David Crowley to be our next governor.
In the event that he wins the contest on August 11th, do you believe that he could assist, especially in some of those areas that might be a little more red or a little more purple, legislative districts outstate? Do you think that he can campaign credibly and legitimately to help turn some of those red assembly districts and Senate districts blue? Because whoever's top of the ticket, whether it's him or whether the person who's leading in the polls, they have got to make sure that they've got a Democratic majority. Do you think that David is more credible in helping get a Democratic legislative majority than she is?
I think she is or I think he is for this reason, because again, he knows how to work across the aisle, when he was in the legislature. And he was able to talk to Speaker Voss when Speaker Voss said it was on arrival, and was able to push legislation for Milwaukee County, which is Act 12. He is able to do the work. And so because David's story and what he's accomplished and what he aims to do for Wisconsin is rooted in fact as well as focus, I believe that he can inspire folks to get involved and turn some of those purple districts to blue in November.
United in faith, grounded in hope. Today, well, it was from 9 a.m. until 11 a.m. Today, from noon until 2 p.m., there's a Sheboygan meet and greet with David Crowley. There's going to be a Green Bay rally with David Crowley and Governor Tony Evers from 5 until 7 p.m. Then from 7:30 until 9:30, there's a Door County meet and greet with David. How are you, David? How are you doing all this? What else is there going on this weekend? There's a Shawano Dems meet and greet that is tomorrow, August 8th, from 10 a.m. until 12 p.m. Then also tomorrow, there's a Wausau rally with David Crowley and Governor Tony Evers. Tony Evers, for old man, he going to be out there putting in some shoe leather. And then on Saturday from 4 until 6, there's an Eau Claire Democratic Party meet and greet at Shift Coffee if you happen to be in Eau Claire. David Crowley will be there for a meet and greet. And then on Sunday, there will be a lacrosse rally with David Crowley and Governor Tony Evers from 10 a.m. until 12 p.m. And then the Viroqua Dems are having a meet and greet also on Sunday from 12:30 until 2:30. And it looks like this whole thing is getting capped off right in Francesca's backyard on Sunday, August 9th, from 5 until 7 p.m., a Madison rally with David Crowley and Governor Tony Evers. There's there's more. On Monday, there's a Milwaukee rally with David Crowley and Governor Tony Evers. Join David Crowley with special guest Tony Evers in Milwaukee on Monday, August 10th at 5:30. Addresses will be sent to the RSVPs the day before the event. So there's a whole host of things going on. Dora, people got to get out and get motivated and get fired up. Do you think that they can do it this last stretch?
I think it's possible. We've seen Wisconsin, this primary has been far from normal. And if anything, I think hopefully future First Lady Erica Crowley said it best. They're running on faith. And I believe because of their faith, their dedication, and the work that Crowley and his supporters are doing, especially with the support of Governor Evers, that he can cross the finish line. And I will say this, because, again, I just really want folks to understand. He is the only candidate that has had experience within the legislature and has had executive experience with 6 years of receipts to show that he's done work, whether it's creating jobs, lowering taxes, expanding affordable housing, funding public safety, lowering drug overdose deaths, and expanding mental health care. Those are priorities that Wisconsin desperately needs. Those are priorities that Wisconsin Democrats have been pushing and desiring to deliver for years. And we have the opportunity to all come together to defeat Tom Tiffany and Governor on day one to deliver for Wisconsin. But we need to do that by getting David Crowley over the finish line on August 11th.
Is there some concern that because this primary has been, and we've stated it 1,000,001 times, and I can't say it enough, very unusual and very unconventional, and actually it's been quite divided because it seems that the Hong supporters are, let's just say they're very passionate. They're passionate to the point of almost disrespect. Do you think it'll be difficult for the Democrats to come together behind whoever the nominee is and then change the focus from beating up on one another and trying to call somebody establishment and somebody this or somebody that, and then turning the focus to Tom Tiffany, because right now Tom Tiffany does not have a primary where he's getting beat up from another Republican opponent. So he's kind of sailing through all of this. What do you think is necessary for Democrats to come together and see what the ultimate prize is in November, and that's to beat Tom Tiffany?
Yeah, I do think that, you know, regardless of what happens with the election on August 11th, there has to be a conversation of being focused to defend Tom Tiffany. I think the reality is, to your point, some of my friends, supporters have been very passionate to the point where it has been disrespectful. I will say that. And that has left a sour taste in many supporters of Crowley, in that I believe we recognize what is at stake if we do not beat Tom Tiffany in November. And just for folks to know, like, Tom Tiffany was one of the folks that actively voted to not verify the 2020 election. He's someone that has consistently voted against Wisconsin interests. We cannot have someone like Tom Tiffany be our governor. And in that, I hope that there is a come to Jesus moment, so to speak, where at the end of the day, we know what the goal is, and that we ensure that some of the priorities that I know I've mentioned I have concerns about are addressed in moving forward, because we cannot allow Tom Tiffany to be our next governor.
You don't believe in Juneteenth Day?
That part.
That's terrible. You got to believe in the freedom of the black people.
And was in the state of Wisconsin, where we had the longest
run
celebration right here in Milwaukee, and in the north part of the district, where I get to have the parade on that side of town. Those are just things that, again, whoever the nominee is, knowing that as Democrats we have to be Tom Tiffany, but recognizing, especially as chair of the Black Caucus, there are priorities that black voters will no longer just stand by, and you cannot ignore what those concerns are should you be the next governor of Wisconsin.
Wisconsin State Senator Dora Drake, thank you for hanging out with us. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Same here.
And I think that you did the county executives some good, because a lot of folks, they were undecided, but then they listened to the show today. Like, Dora Drake is endorsing David Crowley. Well, I am undecided no more. They were just waiting for you, Senator, to get off the sidelines, and now that you are supporting and endorsing David Crowley, well, I think that that's probably going to do it for David. Now he's going to go on and be president of the university.
Well, let's hope so, but it's all hands on deck from here, and folks know that. So sign up. Go ahead and meet Crowley if you're still undecided, if you're in those areas that Sherwin mentioned, but ultimately make sure you bring 5 other people to the polls with you if you have not really voted already.
Thank you guys for listening. The lunch break with Ray Nitty and maybe Shannon is up next.
Yi Lang Zhang was born in Wausau, the son of refugees who fled communism in search of freedom.